Check my check. Check my check. Good afternoon, everyone. So, is it our first session? So, myself Himanshu Khatri, and I'll be taking a session on how to read newspaper. Right? So, let us take a different approach. मतलब थोड़ा सा ऐसी. So usually, we start differently when we talk about how to read newspapers. So now let us start. मैं भी बोर हो जाता हूँ ना? हैं? You take the class in one safe way. How to read newspaper. The teacher will start feeling bored. हैं? It is not acting. Something live something is taking place. So therefore I am going to invert the approach. Right? Invert the approach means you will not come to know, but I'll teach you differently as compared to other batches. We'll take a bottom-up approach. Right? Bottoms up nahi, bottom-up approach. Right? So I like giving gyan, right? I like giving gyan, so therefore, you see, every kind of gyan is available. How to read newspaper, how to prepare for essay, how to prepare for NTSC, how to prepare for interview, how to prepare for CBSC, right? Every kind of gyan is available, right? So therefore, try to take maximum benefit of the gyan. I really like this thing, right? So yesterday, the newspaper that we are going to do is, right, so we take up the newspaper of Indian Express. So this will be uploaded later on. Right, so let us directly begin with something which is the hard work. I hope I had done the hard work, I hope it appears. Right, so economy. Yeah. So let us take two samples of editorials in the newspaper, right? So the toughest part is the editorial. So therefore, let us begin with how to read an editorial, right? How to read, because if you know how to read an editorial, we'll definitely know how to read any newspaper article. How to read any newspaper article, है? So therefore, let us take this one. Preparing soil for the future, right? Degradation poses a challenge to food security. Global community must come together and work to reverse it, right? So, Venkaiah Naidu ji. So therefore, you see, what we do is we simply start reading it, right? First we start reading it. Food security is one of the core indicators of economic development. Fine, nothing great. All of us know. The modernization of agriculture has brought huge dividends in terms of ensuring food security to large swaths of people, apart from improving crop production. A key element of sustainable food production is healthy soil, because nearly 95% of global food production depends on soil. Okay. Where does the rest of the 5% will come? Okay, from the oceans or maybe from meat and all of these things. The current status of soil health is worrisome. Soil degradation on an unprecedented scale is a significant challenge to sustainable food production. About 1/3 of Earth's soil is already degraded, and alarmingly, about 90% could be degraded by 2050 if no corrective action is taken. While soil degradation is believed to be occurring in 145 million hectares in India, it is estimated that 96.4 million hectares, about 30% of the total geographical area, is affected by land degradation. Okay. So therefore, as I was reading this, I came to know that the article is mentioning some figures. And now, through these figures, the author of the editorial, he is trying to tell me that what is the level of problem, what is the quantum of problem, what is the scale of the problem. what is the scale of the problem, right? Naturally, a question comes to my mind that what are the reasons for the problem? Something is what is the scale of the problem, and ये क्या पहन के आए हो तुम? ए निकरे विकरे मत पहना करो, जीन्स ही पहना करो। ऐसे थोड़ी पहन के आते हैं। और मेरी क्लास में सबसे आगे बैठ गया, पीछे बैठा करो मेरी क्लास में। मैं ऐसे हंस देता हूँ, ठीक है? आप इसे गुस्से मत देखो, पता चले क्लास के बाद कहते हैं बाउंसर टाइप है। Nowadays students, they come to class wearing these, jeans, where nothing will be here. Nothing will be here. Right? Once I got shocked, totally surprised. Someone was wearing a jeans and it is as like from the knee. You have like, so nothing is there. From this, in this whole part, nothing is there. One small thread is there which is there. And rest nothing. Fashion sense is changing. In UPSC you cannot. In UPSC you cannot wear these things. You have to be extra serious about these things. Okay? And guys also. लड़कियां पहने ठीक लगता है, स्टाइल है. लड़के गंदे गंदे बाल निकलने वहां से बीच में, तो वैक्सिंग करा लो. क्लास में सामने बैठ जाएंगे फटी फटी जीन्स पहन के. सबका अपना अपना टेम्परमेंट होता है, हमारा टेम्परमेंट नहीं है वैसा. तो as soon as I come across these facts and figures, I tend to see कि भाई facts and figures are mentioned, which tell me about what? Which tell me about the scale of the problem, right? So therefore, ये जो आपको Q2 दिख रहा है, so these are like some questions they come to my mind, and on the right hand side I write on a question: why soil degradation? Why this person is writing this article? Commonsensical FAQ approach. Second question that comes to my mind: what is the scale of the problem? How does this question pops up in my mind? The first question is very commonsensical question, right? And the second question, I come across this question because the article tells me to think like this. Article is telling me that you can organize this part can be answer to my question: what is the scale of the problem? And therefore, I do reverse engineering, and therefore this element will become answer to my question. Fine. I do not want to go at a very deep level in the facts, but I want to have a rough idea that what is the problem. So therefore, I start reading that 1/3 of the earth's soil is already degraded. Fine. Simple fact, easy to remember. About 90% could be degraded by 2050. Okay. Punchline types I can use in my editorial, in my essay, I can use it in my means. Soil degradation is believed to be occurring in India. What is the problem in India? So this is a world level. So what is the problem at India level? They say, okay, it is happening at 145 million hectares in India, right? And roughly 30% of the total geographical area is affected by land degradation. I do not want to get 96.4 million hectare, 1.5 million hectare. I do not want to go in too much of detail. Give me big figures. I do not want this because I will not be able to remember so many facts and figures. I want to remember a ballpark figure. Ballpark means a rough figure. 1/3 is very good figure for me because it is easier for me to remember. Who will remember 96.4? और कोई काम धंधा नहीं है basically. Right. So 30%. 30% of total geographical area of India is affected by land degradation. Very good. Easy to remember. It will enter into my notes. I do not want to enter into my notes 96.4 million hectares. पहले तो ये नहीं पता हेक्टेयर क्या होता है. आपको पता है व्हाट इज हेक्टेयर? मुझे नहीं पता. ठीक. मिलियन हेक्टेयर्स, हाउ मेनी, ये नहीं पता इन मिलियन हाउ मेनी जीरोस, हाउ मेनी जीरोस इन मिलियन. After Sambit Patra ji told me that in 1 million there are 6 zeros. After that I have been able to remember it. 6 zeros. 1 million is equal to 10 lakh. ठीक. So anyways, so fine. We continue reading. Globally, the biophysical status of 5670 million hectares of land is declining, of which 1660 million hectares is attributed to human-induced land degradation, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization's State of Land, Soil and Water Report. ठीक है, बहुत सारे फैक्ट मुझे पता है. soil degraded है. I have understood that soil is degraded. ठीक है, I have rough ballpark figures. More facts I am not interested in. I am interested in trends because that I will be able to remember. Right? I'm not preparing for Indian Statistical Services. I'm preparing for UPSC. right? I need to know the scale of the problem, and my focus should be more on why the problem and how to solve the problem. If I focus too much on scale of the problem, then I can fill, all of my answer with facts, which I do not know how I'll be able to remember. So I don't want to make my preparation complex. I want my preparation to be more analytically driven, and therefore my focus will be on why. Right? Fine. The time has come for collective global action involving governments and civil society to reverse this alarming trend. See, I have not underlined this. I have also not underlined some of the factors or some of these sentences initially. Food security is one of the core indicators of economic development. Now, a person who is just begun the preparation, they might find such sentences very awesome. Right? Let us underline this. Right? Any word which comes like sustainable food development. Sustainable food development. This is all फालतू का अंग्रेजी bullshit. Right? This is all फालतू का अंग्रेजी bullshit. Nothing is there. What crux? What are they telling me? ये सब ज्ञान है. Every first attempter after first attempt can make such ज्ञान. There should be holistic approach. There should be 360-degree approach. Smart work, not hard work. ये फालतू फंडे होते हैं. All of these are random bullshits, right? So therefore, they will not enter into my this. I'll be able to write down. I'll read editorials for 1 month. After that, such ज्ञान तो I can give at any point of time. Holistic approach. अभी बोलता हूँ. I can speak for half an hour. Right? There should be a holistic approach with participation of not just the government, but a public-private partnership approach should be applied to soil degradation or to rejuvenation of soil health. Right? Plus, there is also a requirement of civil society partnership, and there should be involvement of self-help groups and farmer-producer organizations of the agriculturists. Farmer-producer organizations which involve the peasants as well as the private sector. Right? Especially the companies who are working in the fertilizer sector, right? They should be sensitized with respect to high use of. I can write down random things. I can write down 1 year if I have prepared. So these are random things, right? Great swaths of people improving crop production. Simply ask, "Faltu bakwas band kar. Tell me what is the real problem," right? So therefore, a knack should be there to find out what is the real thing. Whenever you feel that any writer is giving you gyan, you tell that person, gyan rakh side mein, keep the gyan on the right hand side. Tell me the crux of the matter. In simple words, tell me the crux of the matter. Why this problem is there. Right? So therefore, sustainable development, economic development, all of these are nothing but random words whose meaning I do not know. I do not know what is holistic approach. Why should I write down in my notes holistic approach? I do not know 360-degree approach. Why should I write down there should be 360-degree approach? Be honest to yourself. We need to be honest to ourselves. Right? Time has come for collective global action. Obviously. What is great? Yes, everyone should work together. Civil society, national government, state governments, international governments, United Nations, private sector, multinational companies, pharma companies, everyone should work together. Usme kya great hai? Tell me something which is actual. Right? Time has come for collective global action involving governments and civil society to reverse this alarming trend. Nothing good given to me right now. Apart from natural causes, a variety of human activities lead to soil degradation. Right? So therefore, I had one question: reason for soil degradation. Right? Not very great thing, but I am expecting that now the article will start talking about why soil degradation. Right? And they tell me that certain human activities they lead to soil degradation, so I need to find out. Let's see if the article is able to give me some. With the threat to food security looming large globally, compounded by the attendant hazard of serious damage to environment, the need of the hour is to adopt innovative policies and agroecological practices that create healthy and sustainable food production systems. कहना क्या चाहते हो? What do you want to say? Nothing. This is also general funda. In which year even a UPSC aspirant preparing in 1990 could have written the same sentence? in which times, in the ancient times also, in the medieval time also, someone could have written that with the threat of food security looming large globally, compounded by problem of environment, damage to environment, need of the hour is to adopt new policies. And agroecological practices, okay, such agricultural practices which are environment friendly, that create healthy and sustainable food production. There is nothing great. Nothing great. What they are telling us, they're simply telling us that it is need of the hour that we should focus on increasing food production without damaging the environment. Cut it down, cut the bullshit. I'm not a very, I'm not into very English savvy kind of a thing, right? Simple in Desi Punjabi, Paji. In the Desi Punjabi, I want to know what is the problem. As simple as that. Right? You know Punjabi, right? Right? So in Desi, right? If someone, Desi mother tongue. Right? I do not want this complexity. So nothing, you have not added anything great to me. Since ancient times in India, Mother Earth has been considered a divine entity, Bhakti Bhav aate hue, and her worship is an integral part of the country's civilizational ethos. One can find numerous reverential references to Mother Earth in the Vedas. Yes, our society has always been very, ये तो Western civilization है, जिसकी वजह से obviously fertilizer use, profit motive, right? So, ठीक है. In tune with this divine knowledge, Indian farmers since ancient times have followed sustainable and holistic agricultural practices. With changing times and a growing population, agriculture has adopted modern scientific techniques. So fine, very much valid, but why there is soil degradation, we have not come to know. They are simply telling us that because of use of modern techniques, soil degradation is taking place. Exactly what? Please tell me exactly how. Extensive use of fertilizers and pesticides led to the deterioration of soil health and contamination of water bodies and the food chain, which pose serious health risks to people and livestock. Okay, fine. Finally, I get something concrete. I'll underline it. That is, there is high use of fertilizers and pesticides. Okay, one simple point, but okay. I'll note it down. I'm a beginner. I'm preparing for UPSC. Something concrete. That is, I come to know high use of fertilizer, it is pesticide, it is leading to degradation of soil. Okay, this thing we can counter. Second, stressing the urgent need. So therefore, this is the answer to my question number 1. Why soil degradation? So I mark it at Q1. Right? Stressing the urgent need for action to reduce dependence on pesticides worldwide and to promote policies advocating healthy and sustainable food systems and agricultural production. A Healthy Planet for Healthy Children, published by the United Nations Institute for Training and Research and the World Future Council, highlighted success stories from various countries. Okay, simply you're trying to tell me that there are some success stories. Some people have dealt with this problem. Some people have dealt with this particular problem. Good, let's see. Including Sikkim in India, which became the first organic state in the world. Okay, so I'll highlight it. Why? Because they give me something concrete. That doing away with the pesticides, you have told me that pesticides and fertilizers, they are a problem. And then you tell me that there is an Indian state which is doing organic production. Organic, I understand, no use of pesticide, no use of fertilizers. Right? And this success story has been highlighted at world level. Right? So therefore, I will put it another question, question 3. And what is my question number 3? My question number 3 is, what is the solution? And what India has done. What is the solution and what India has done. So this is my third question. So my FAQ approach is developing. Why soil degradation? What is the quantum of the problem? How serious is the problem? What is the solution at world level? And is there any solution which India has adopted? And lastly, another question, which I come to know that, okay, many of the international organizations are mentioned. So which are the international organizations which are looking at this particular problem? Which will be responsible for any global coordinated action, right? So therefore, on the right hand side, later on after reading the whole article, I can write down that there is FAO, right, which gives reports on soil health. There is this Global Forum for Food and Agriculture, which is also mentioned again in the article. There is this UN Institute for Training and Research, and there is the World Future Council. What do? So they publish best practices. These guys, they tell the world what is the best way. FAO publishes the reports on the soil health. So FAO tells me what is the problem, and then there are some organizations which tell us what are the solutions. Fine, as simple as that. How do I come to know this? By reading the article. I see that whenever the name of the FAO it is used, so they are highlighting the problem. And whenever these institutes are mentioned, they highlight the best practice. Example, Sikkim example was highlighted in these people's reports. Right? So fine, I continue to study. Sikkim in India, which became the first organic state in the world. It said the small northeast Indian state has succeeded in phasing out chemical pesticides and fertilizers gradually but resolutely, that is strongly, and has converted the entire state to organic agriculture. Fine, so I underline that Sikkim has phased out use of pesticides and this thing. Fine. As soil is a fragile and finite resource, sustainable land management practices are essential to ensure healthy soil. बहुत बार sustainable बोल दिया. Okay, sustainable land management practice. Right? How? Because I underline it not right away, but when I read the next part, so I feel that okay, some kind of this element can be mentioned. They are critical not only to preventing degradation, but also to ensuring food security. Every effort must also be made to prevent soil erosion, as it not only affects fertility but also increases the risk of floods and landslides. My focus here is on, see, so there should be sustainable land management practices as are essential to ensure healthy soil. Fine, तो उसको Q3, right? Sustainable. एक कर दिया. Q3 is what is the solution. Q1, we know why the problem. So after high use of pesticides and fertilizers, finally after some paragraphs, I come to know, the article tells me that soil erosion is also a problem. Soil erosion, it is also a problem. Okay. FAO's latest State of the World's Land and Water Resources for Food and Agriculture says soil pollution is also an issue. Right? So therefore, इसमें I should have Q2 नहीं, मुझे Q1 लिखना चाहिए था, जल्दबाजी में लिख दिया. Q2 is scale of the problem, right? So therefore I should have mentioned Q1. So this is Q1. So I also come to know that soil pollution is also an issue. So three issues I am able to see till now: high use of pesticides and fertilizers, soil erosion, and soil pollution. Okay. The excessive or inappropriate use of agrochemicals is one cause of the problem. So मैंने गलती से Q2 यहाँ लिख दिया. It is by mistake I have written Q2. It is Q1. That is, it is answer to question number 1. So therefore, high use of agrochemicals, which is nothing but fertilizers and pesticides, fine. Another challenge comes from salinization. So again, this is again not Q2, Q1. That is again, I'm finding a fourth reason. Salinization is the issue, which affects 160 million hectares of cropland worldwide. I'm not interested. Soil degradation needs to be urgently addressed and reversed. Fine. 7th time. As stated by the DG of FAO, Ku Dongyu, in his address to Global Forum for Food and Agriculture, reversing soil degradation is vital if we want to feed a growing global population, protect biodiversity, and help address the plant's climate crisis. I compliment the Union government for having introduced the revolutionary Soil Health Card scheme. Under the program, as of date, soil health cards have been distributed to about 23 crore farmers. So this is my Q3. That is, what is the solution and whether India has done something specific for it. So therefore, yes, a role model Sikkim is there, which has phased out the use of chemicals and fertilizers. And second, the government of India has a soil health card scheme, whose features I need to know. So the article is good. It tells me that what are some of the features. So as I read on, the scheme has not only helped in improving the health of the soil, but also has benefited innumerable farmers by increasing crop production and their incomes. I am pleased to note that India is well on course to achieving the restoration of 26 million hectares of degraded land by 2030. So why do I highlight it? Because this is a Government of India goal. And many of the times in the international forums, we highlight that this is our goal. And this is how we are going to achieve sustainable development, right? So therefore we mention is that what India is doing. So India is on path to achieve restoration of 26 million hectares of degraded land by 2030, and one of our primary tools to achieve it is soil health cards. One of the tools is there. Fine. A study conducted by National Productivity Council in 2017 on this program revealed that there has been a decrease in the use of chemical fertilizers. So therefore, with the help of the soil health card scheme, we are able to sensitize the farmers to decrease the use of fertilizers in the range of 8 to 10% as a result of the application of fertilizers and micronutrients as per the recommendations on the soil health cards. Okay, so now I come to know that there is something the government does analysis of my land's soil, and they give me a card which basically would have some kind of columns where they tell me that in your soil you should not use more than this much of urea, you should not use more than this much of DAP or other fertilizers, whatever fertilizers are there. Right? As a result of application of fertilizers and micronutrients as per the recommendations on the soil health cards. So like we have a child in our home whose vaccination card is there, that on this particular date this vaccine should be implemented, on this particular date this vaccine should be administered. So similarly you are doing something for the soil also, that this much amount of fertilizer A, this much amount of fertilizer B, right? So therefore some kind of a card is there. Overall, an increase in crop yields to the tune of 5 to 6% was reported as a result. Okay. Several studies have established that natural farming and organic farming are not only cost effective but also lead to improvement in soil health and farmland ecosystem. So this is a solution. Right. So therefore I read this. I would also like to extend my deepest appreciation to Sadhguru for his Save Soil campaign and for completing 100 days of solo biking. मुझे भी ले जाते traversing through 27 nations चल लेता मैं. His attempt to engage with heads of governments, experts and government officials कर लेता यार मैं बात. ठीक. So anyways, so rest is nothing but side things. So you see, basically what I did in this particular article, that I highlighted certain questions from myself. Right? I read the article, questions that came to my mind, very commonsensical questions. I jotted them down, and then I highlighted the relevant answers. That this can be my answer to Q3, this can be my answer to Q1, this can be my answer to Q4 and Q5 and so on. Right? So 4 questions are there. Why soil degradation? What is the scale of the problem? What is the solution and what India has done? Right? So majorly India has soil health card scheme, and one example of Sikkim is there. International organizations which are working on this. FAO, it publishes the problems, and then there are some organizations which publish the best practices. Right? So now what I can do is I can make my notes either on Evernote. Evernote is an application. You can make digital notes, or on Notability or Good Notes, or on the simple A4, whatever. Right? And I can write down my own question, right? And I can write down my own simple language answer. And therefore now I have a 1-pager on soil. If tomorrow any article comes in this newspaper or any other newspaper, right? If some more questions pop into my mind, I'll write those questions and I'll extract answer to these questions. If some article comes which tells me even more why there is soil degradation, fine, I'll add a point here. The utility of having Evernote is I can insert wherever in future any article comes which tells me what is the, so I can add. The liberty to edit is there. Otherwise what I'll do is that I leave enough space. I leave some blank space also. I'll make notes A4 pages पे and I'll leave blank space, so that, because overall I know that with respect to the soil issue, at max UPSC will be asking me what? It will not ask an essay. It will ask a mains question it can ask. So therefore 1.5 page or 2 pages if I have, and this is nothing but 360-degree approach. This is nothing but holistic approach. All of these topics, this is smart study, smart work, hard work. What is this? This is nothing but this. You ask commonsensical FAQs. FAQs means frequently asked questions on any particular issue, and you try to find out answer to this question. And therefore, you have very organized notes. Now, before the exam, you will be reading in a very organized manner that why there is soil degradation, which are the different forms of soil degradation, right? What is the scale of the problem? What is the solution? What India has done, and what the world can do. And therefore, my answer, it is prepared. UPSC can ask me anything with respect to the issue of soil, and I have a very organized notes. What did I want to highlight with this particular example? I wanted to highlight that this is the liberty. This is one thing which the UP aspirants, they realize very, very late. Because we are in a mad race, so therefore how do we make notes? We make notes, paragraph 1, summary. Paragraph 2, summary. Paragraph 3, summary. Many of the times we make notes like this. But if we wait for a bit, if we think of some questions, then A will not be having notes date-wise, will not be having notes randomly hodgepodge, right? That is, we'll be independent. We have our own organization. Psychology was my optional, and in psychology it is said that that information is remembered much better, which is self-organized. Therefore, I am giving my own organization, I am making myself independent of the organization of the author. Why? Because see, their organization is incoherent. Why it is incoherent? I had very simple logical questions that what are the solutions to the problems, and solutions are scattered all across the article. Problems are scattered all across the article. Reasons for the problems are scattered all across the article. Why it is? Because newspapers are getting published not solely for the reason that UPSC aspirants should be able to get material for their exam. They are publishing newspaper articles because of a larger clientele. If I am an editorial writer, right, my intent will be not to give in such information in such simple form. My intent will be that I should have an opening paragraph which catches the attention of the reader like anything. My build-up should be there in the story that it reaches a point of climax. And then the climax comes and there is an aha moment in the minds of the reader. And I should go out of the article with a conclusion which gives a sense of satisfaction or which gives another boom kind of a thing. So therefore this is the art of, I have attended training courses, I have attended on how to write editorials. So what can be a good opening? What can be a good conclusion? How do you build a tempo? These are the skills which the editorial writers, they hone for a long period of time. Their focus is not to give you information in a simplified manner. Right? And therefore, if I make notes, paragraph 1, summary 1, paragraph 2, summary 2, paragraph 3, summary 3, my notes will be not in a coherent organization, they will be haphazard. I will not have all the reasons and all the solutions at one place. Second point, if I make notes by preparing notes topic wise, I am making myself independent of the brand of Indian Express, Hindu, Vision Eyes magazines, some other coaching institute magazines. I am independent. Why? Now I am brandless. My brand is the topic. Any person, any coaching institute, any website can give me any information. I have my questions. I want my questions to be answered. Which of my question are you answering? I get to know. I have notes in an organized manner. My revision will be picture perfect. I will not have to take out Yojana of this particular month because I have tagged it, is something on soil is given. I don't have to take out newspaper cuttings where I had tagged that this is something I have noted down in a Word document that check editorial number 4 of Indian Express dated 24th of June 2022. Right? I have not done anything, so therefore then I go waste time. These things never work. These are all foolish strategies, they never work. जितना आपको उठना पड़ेगा, I repeat the same thing in English later on, जितना आपको अपनी चेयर से उठना पड़ेगा रिवीजन के टाइम पे कि ये मेरे कोचिंग के नोट्स हैं इस टॉपिक पे, ये मेरे लक्ष्मीकांत के नोट्स हैं इस टॉपिक पे, ये मेरे डी बसु के हाईलाइटेड पेजेस हैं, ये मेरे न्यूज़पेपर की कटिंग्स हैं इस टॉपिक पे, ये मेरी योजना का टॉपिक है, जितना आपको चेयर पे से उतरना पड़ेगा उतनी आपकी प्रिपरेशन का हो रहा है बाबा जी का ठुल्लू. राइट, इट इज गोइंग टू जीरो. रिविजन हो ही नहीं पाएगी. रिपीटिंग द सेम थिंग इन इंग्लिश. इफ यू डू नॉट हैव कंटेंट in an organized manner at one place, you will never be able to revise properly. If you have to pick out, if your information is scattered in the form of some information on page number 50 of Yojana, some information on this topic on page number 60 of this month's Kurukshetra, some newspaper article tagged with a particular thing, some Lakshmikant, page number 60, some coaching institute register, page number 74. This is doomsday. This is doomsday, and no one tells you this. That's why so many of the students, they keep on giving attempt after attempt after attempt. Because self-organization is a hard task. It takes efforts. This takes efforts. We are in a rush. Sir, what are you doing, sir? We have to clear UPSC. Meaning, We have to clear it. Sir, we don't have time for all this. Then what is, sir, we have to just complete the newspaper. Friend, were you able to understand anything by reading it? Sir, we will understand later, sir. First, you have to complete today's newspaper. But have you been able to extract something? Sir, please don't waste my time, sir. I have to cover second newspaper also, sir. What is this understanding? We'll understand later. But today we have to complete newspaper. We are in a rush. We are in this anxiety. We are in this anxiety that we have to just get over it. Right? So, therefore, this is how I'll have, plus I'll get to know when to stop. A student who would have made notes, not like this, but in this particular manner, that newspaper date, summary, underlining or making notes on the issue of COVID. Today, she can publish 2 novels, part 1, part 2. Why? Because she never got to know when to stop. She could never determine that now is the time to stop. Why? Because newspaper publish those news more which are important for their clientele, which will increase the readership, which have something either very threatening, something which is very attractive, something which calls doomsday, something which says that now we are in heaven, something which catches the eye. Therefore, some issues which are politically more sensitive, the news items, they are published more and more and more. And as a result, we have much more information on some topics and very little information on some other topics. Because the newspapers, they are not publishing newspapers for UPSC. Their intent is something else. Right? But if you prepare notes like this, imagine if I have 15 pages in good decent handwritings, not in the handwriting that we are killing mosquitoes, but in like decent handwriting, if I have fine, 10 pages, 15 pages. Fine, COVID became a very big issue. So I have certain questions in my mind. What is COVID? Right? What is COVID? What is the impact of COVID on human health? What is the impact of COVID on economy? What is the impact of COVID on international economy? What is the impact of COVID on bilateral and international relations? Right? Next, how to solve the problem of COVID? First point, can there be vaccines for COVID? If yes, which are they? Some key highlights, right? That can be there. Second, if not, then what are other solutions to management of COVID and permanent eradication of COVID? Right? So these are my questions. Next question, how did the world react to the COVID? The institutions like World Health Organizations, did they function effectively? Or the world came to know that some reforms are required to deal with such problems better in future? What are the learnings from COVID? What are the learnings from COVID? International organization wise, national organizations wise. Did you come to know that the district administration is efficient enough to deal with this thing? Or we realize that something better is required, some institutional changes are required for future. That is learnings from COVID. My heading will be learnings from COVID. And fine, once I have these kind of 7-8 questions, I can have maybe 1.5 page or 1 page per thing. Once I have 15 pages, fine, 20 pages, okay. But then I know that I have to stop now. Because at max, I'll be required to write an essay on COVID. And it's 360-degree analysis. That's it. Nothing more will be required of me. So I need to stop. And until unless some new information which is very, very critical, that comes. Until unless an article which summarizes the whole saga of the past 2 years, that comes. Only then I'll be adding information. Otherwise, I have my 20 pages and sorry, I'm done. I need to move ahead. There are other topics in line. Right? So therefore, and if any small information regarding some vaccine, etc. is there, I have Vision IAS magazines, they will cover it. They'll cover it. Right? But from the mains perspective, this much is enough. So therefore, I get to know where to stop. I get to know that on which particular topic I don't have anything. and I get, for example, internal security. Maybe only 5 articles come in 6 months on the problem of Maoism. And you come out with your FAQs, right? And you realize that you don't have any answer to a question number 3. And therefore you understand that you need to visit MHA website, Ministry of Home Affairs website, or you need to visit Google to find answer to this question. You type down this question and whatever newspaper article comes, maybe it is of 2019, maybe it is of 2021, you click on it, maybe it is not from Indian Express or the Hindu, it is from some other link, right? Maybe it is a Government of India report, click on it, read it, extract answer to your question and populate it and move ahead. And therefore this is how I prepare with a 360-degree approach. This is what your holistic approach is, this is what your essay is. If I have to write essay, I'll just remove the name of the question and I'll simply start writing. The answer checker will see, wow, this man has a flow. This answer has a flow. What is flow? Flow is nothing but organized. Right? With the help of the FAQ approach, we are approaching the topic in a very organized manner. Right? For example, I will give an example. You can search on Google. UIDAI FAQ. Right? Government of India follows FAQ approach. There the question is, what is Aadhaar or UIDAI? Who is the issuing authority for Aadhaar? What are the features of Aadhaar and benefits of Aadhaar? How to get Aadhaar? Who can become a service partner for delivering Aadhaar? Does Aadhaar violate privacy? What is the Supreme Court judgment on Aadhaar? What are the future possible uses of Aadhaar? Right? So this is an organized FAQ approach, commonsensical approach. Now if you simply remove the questions and you simply write down the summary of the answers, you have an essay with you. Therefore, if you prepare the social issues with the focus on FAQ approach, you never have to prepare for essay. In my 3 attempts, I always got more than 50% in essay. Right? I never prepared for essay. Why? Because what is essay? It is also, sorry, no offense, but it is a marketing gimmick according to me. Coaching institutes preparing for essay. People writing books on essay. Right? Dukaan chal rahi. It's a shop which is running. Right? UPSC does not want you to be very, artistically very, very fluent. Yeah? So these are rest are beautification. Some topper mentioning that, introduced with a story. A farmer was sitting on a charpoy and then a young boy came. Why don't we have food on the table? Right? And then you write down the essay. Last night. Now the farmer has a smile and he rises up from the charpoy. Ending. These are side things. These are beautification. These are toppings on the cake. The cake is the core aspect, right? And once you prepare it like this actually, so then you have grip on the topic. And then you can become artistic also. You can play around. Now it is upon you whether you want to put this particular part in the introduction. If you want to jumble this thing while writing an answer, you can do it because you have mastery of the subject. A person who knows how to play a guitar, I do not know, but a person who knows how to play a guitar, he can jam like anything. He can merge different things like anything, right? Those of you, who are, artistically more developed than me, they will know, you can do. For example, if anyone has cooking as a hobby, or some among you would have cooked. So by altering some ingredients, by adding something, you can, you have the mastery of that particular subject and you can create something new on the spot if you want to. Right? So therefore you are able to have mastery of the subject and you are able to deal with any bouncer question by the UPSC. Right? Any bouncer question by the UPSC you can deal with. We'll take another example, and this is also, I chose the toughest articles. For this particular class, that these are the articles by looking at which students they will feel some kind of a terror, right? That's what it is. So let us see that can we simplify it. And it was connected to this also. So therefore maybe I'll find some more questions and I might find answers to these questions by reading this particular article. So that's why I chose this as second article. The fertilizers pinch. India cannot sustain current cost of fertilizer imports. It must cap its consumption of urea, DAP, MOP. First of all, bhaiya, I do not know what is DAP. I do not know MOP. I do not know what is urea. Frankly, when I was a first attempter and I had zero knowledge, right, and I thought urea is something related to I don't know, maybe urine or something. I don't know, right? First attempter, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. And later on, but I came to know that ammonia is a common component, anyways, right? So I do not know what is this. These two scary looking people, right? They are going to tell me what it is. As soon as I look at these charts, I have a phobia in my mind that what are these buildings, these towers, these figures, imports of fertilizers and inputs, dollar, MN. I do not know what is MN. Finally, I try to search. Okay, it means million, right? Sale of fertilizers in lakh metric tons. I do not know what is a ton. I do not know what is a metric ton. Fine. Some chart is there. MPKS complexes, SSP, Superintendent of Police. Source department, but I don't know why. I have no idea. I hated science and they are telling me sulfur, sulfuric acid, ammonia, phosphoric acid, phosphate rock, kya cha rahe ho yaar? And then in the note they are telling me anhydrous ammonia. Arey, what do you want, man? Right? So therefore, I am feeling a lot of this thing. But see, fine. I have to. My job is what? My job is what? I am fearless. You can scare me, right? And my job is I don't want to do a PhD in all of this, right? So you can keep your sulfuric acid in your pocket. You can drink it, right? What I want is, in layman terms, my FAQs are there. Okay, I'm going to read this article. Some commonsensical questions they are going to come into my mind. I simply want to know, bhaiya, what are fertilizers? Right, basic questions they can come to my mind. What are fertilizers? Why are they used? What is the problem with them? How to solve the problem? These are my simple FAQs, right? And let us try to see that what we are able to do, right? Whenever the things they get very complex, I'm not interested. As simple as that. You need to have some swag. You need to have some attitude while you're preparing for UPSC. Right? And the attitude is that I'll give you 3 attempts to understand you. And if still I'm not able to understand you, then get lost. Why? Because there's so many others to understand. You know? So, therefore, that is why. Propose 3 times. After that, move ahead. Life is very diverse. No point becoming Kabir Singh for UPSC preparation. Ammonia, sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid will start coming out from your eyes. You don't have to do PhD. Don't become Kabir Singh. Live and let live. Right? So, be liberal. Right? So do not pressurize yourself too much. Wherever you feel that I'm not understanding this, right? We'll approach this with this particular aspect. You're going to get a lot bored in this article, right? But if you stay with me, you'll have a live example that how to simplify such a complex information as well. If you can stay with me. And this is the only article, 2 articles I'm going to discuss. Then we'll go to general principles. So 2 articles, complex articles we discuss. So let us begin. We do not know anything. I'm with you. That is, I'm at your level. Maybe some of you are better than me. Right? Fine. No country has as much area under farming as India. At 169.3 million hectares, MH, in 2019, its land used for crop cultivation was higher than that of US, China, Russia or Brazil. With its perennial Himalayan rivers and average annual rainfall of nearly 1200 millimeters against Russia's 475, China's 650 and US 750. India has no dearth of land, water and sunshine to sustain vibrant agriculture, which it has for 3000 years and more. First lesson. I did not underline anything. Why? Because I need to be pretty sure about what I am studying. My focus is on fertilizers. Article writer, you came out with a grand opening, some very shocking facts that United States of America is such a huge country and it has less area under agriculture, fine. Very good opening. You see, this is how they created a punch. This is how they try to create a punch. But as a UPSC aspirant, I need to be focused that I am studying this particular article from the perspective of fertilizers. Right? I am not studying this particular article from the perspective of other topics. So therefore, resist yourself. I know this information you might want to collect, right? Try to resist yourself. Why? Because 365 days are there. Every day 3 to 4 editorials come. When there will be focus on the land acreage, when there will be focus on the agriculture sector, that how much are the crop yields and how much area of land it is under direct cultivation and how much is not, there will be separate complex articles. We'll deal with them in future. They'll come. As a beginner, you might not have this sense of confidence that whether this information I'll get in future or not. But trust me, there is no dearth of information. Articles, they keep on coming, right? So therefore, try to be focused. Otherwise, the time that you're devoting to the newspaper, it will escalate. Right? So I'm focused, that's why I did not underline it. Good information, but I'm not, right? So this is there. Maybe for purposes of essay, if I feel that, okay, this information is not very complex also, and it is very catchy also, fine, what I'll do, I'll go to my essay openings, right? So I can have a Evernote, I can have, this essay notebook where I can have something. If I'm collecting some good introductions, right, so fine, I can collect it as a good introduction. That is for food security or for agriculture sector. If any essay comes, then this is my opening. That India has more land under cultivation compared to China, US, Brazil, etc. Right? And second, okay, so this plus with respect to water, your rainfall also, we are better off. Fine, okay. So, but try to resist. Anyways, coming back. But there is one resource in which the country is short and heavily import dependent: mineral fertilizers. In 2021-22, India imported 10.16 million tons of urea, 5.86 million tons of diammonium phosphate (DAP), and 2.91 million tons of muriate of potash (MOP). In value terms, imports of all fertilizers touched an all-time high of $12.77 billion last fiscal. So first of all, I have a sense of satisfaction that at least now I know what is the full form of DAP and MOP. Right? So therefore, that is why I highlight it, because in the introduction they have given. Right? Second of all, I come to know that, okay, overall roughly $12.77 billion is the import of these three items, and the problem it is of import. We are importing it, fine. That figure, however, presents an incomplete picture. In last fiscal, India also produced some amount of urea, some DAP, some complex fertilizers. See, I cannot remember these small figures: 25.07 million tons, 4.22 million tons. Therefore, I am a UPSC aspirant and I'm not super interested. I'm not preparing for or some agricultural university exam. I'm not interested in these small data points that we import which particular item in which many million tons. Because these figures, they will keep on changing. I should have a rough idea, and if I have a rough idea in money terms, I'm fine. UPSC is never going to ask me that in how many million tons of urea India it is importing. Right? So therefore, don't get into that. Otherwise, you will get mad. So much amount of facts and figures they come, you will become mad. So that's why I'm not highlighting small figures. My focus is what? I come to know India also produced urea, DAP and complex fertilizers. What are complex fertilizers? Containing nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur in different ratios. And 5.33 million tons of single super phosphate SSP. So what I was thinking was Senior Superintendent of Police, turned out to be single super phosphate. The intermediates or raw materials for the manufacture of these fertilizers were substantially imported. Okay. Take urea, whose primary feedstock is natural gas. Why am I underlining this? See, I'm underlining this particular part that India also produced urea, DAP, complex fertilizers and SSP. So therefore I am coming to know that India also produces these things. Second information that I am getting, however, the raw materials for producing these are being imported. So that's why I simply underline it. Right now I am simply underlining it. This is like the base level. I do not know what I'll be doing with this, because this article is there. Some of the complex questions, they are coming into my mind. So what are the questions? I simply want to know that, okay, by reading this article, I have some questions in my mind, and the question goes something like this. After reading this much, I have some questions. Question number is, which fertilizers we import and from where? Second question, which fertilizers we manufacture? Third question, aayega bhi, quantum of the problem. What is the quantum of the problem of this import? Right. So I know the quantum, $12.77 billion. Right. Anyways, let's continue. Take urea, whose primary feedstock is natural gas. I underlined it. Why? Because this article, this line is telling me how urea, what is the raw material for urea. So fine, I underlined it right now. In 2021, India imported 23.42 million tons of LNG, that is natural gas, valued at $13.47 billion. As per the Petroleum Ministry data, the fertilizer sector's share in consumption of regasified LNG was over 41%. So therefore I am not interested in these small multiple figures. But fine, here I am getting a ballpark kind of figure that whatever LNG that we import, 40% roughly of that LNG, it is used by the fertilizer sector. Fine. That's why, because the fact is simple, easier to remember, that's why I underlined it. Then, for DAP, domestic manufacturers import intermediate chemicals, namely phosphoric acid and ammonia. Some even produce phosphoric acid by importing rock phosphate and sulfuric acid. The latter can be further made from the import of sulfur. I am getting confused now. What, but still fine. Because I am doing a preliminary reading of the article, I simply underline. Because I have to follow integrity. If I note it down that what is the raw material for urea, it is my ethical integrity that I should note down what is the raw material for other things also. So right now I am not concerned. I'll revisit this, but right now just simply underline and let's move ahead. During the last fiscal, 6.44 MT of phosphoric acid, 2.31 MT of ammonia, 9.66 MT of rock phosphate, 1.92 MT of sulfuric acid and 1.9 MT of sulfur were imported into the country. See, that's why I told you. If you will start focusing on small facts, you will be forced to have these facts also. How much will you remember? You'll get confused. MT. You'll only remember MT. Nothing else you will be able to remember. Table 1 shows the total value of fertilizer imports by India, inclusive of inputs used in the domestic production, is a whopping $24.3 billion in 2020. So I underline it because that is answer to my question, what is the quantum of the problem? Right? How much we import? Fine. There are two costs here. The first is forex outgo. Imports are mostly from China, Oman, UAE and Egypt, urea. China, Saudi Arabia and Morocco, DAP. Belarus, Canada, Russia, Israel, Jordan, MOP. Qatar, US, UAE and Nigeria, LNG. Morocco, Jordan, Senegal and Tunisia, phosphoric acid. Saudi Arabia and Qatar, ammonia. Jordan, Morocco, Egypt, Togo, rock phosphate. Right now I underline it, but beta, tera kuch karna padega. Something has to be done about you. I am not going to get mad. I am not a rattu tota. Something needs to be done. The second cost is fiscal. Fertilizers are not only imported, but Indian farmers also pay below what it costs to import or manufacture using imported inputs. So this point actually I underlined in this particular heading. So yeah, that's a good point. Fertilizers are not only imported, but Indian farmers also pay below what it costs to import or manufacture using imported inputs. The difference is paid as a subsidy by the government. So basically it means that if a fertilizer is worth 500 rupees, the Indian farmers, they only pay 300 rupees, rest of the 200 rupees they are paid by the government of India. Fine. Both costs are reasonably high to bear for a mineral resource poor country. We are feeling it, especially with global prices of urea, DAP, MOP, phosphoric acid, ammonia and sulfur rising. LNG, sorry. 2 to 2.5 times in last year. They are softened a bit of late. There was a time farmers had to be incentivized to use chemical fertilizers for boosting crop yields. Today, they have to be restrained from over application. I underline it. Why? Because I come to know a problem, and the problem is that farmers are overusing the fertilizers. Farmers should know India imports half of its natural gas requirement. That will only go up, and hardly has any mineable rock phosphate, potash or elemental sulfur reserves. So if my optional is geography, I'll note it down, otherwise not. There is a need, first of all, to cap or even reduce consumption of high analysis fertilizers. अभी कौन से fertilizer भाई? Particularly urea, DAP, MOP, and some percentages are written. Okay, so now I'm getting to know that the article is now coming towards solution. So one of the solution that he is mentioning is we should reduce consumption of high analysis fertilizers. Right. One way to do this is by incorporating ureas and nitrification inhibition compounds in urea. Okay, this is a solution which I do not understand, but I have to underline it because I am marking the solution. These are basically chemicals that slow down the rate at which urea is hydrolyzed, resulting in the production of ammonia gas and its release into atmosphere, and nitrified, leading to below ground loss of nitrogen through leaching. Okay. By reducing ammonia volatilization and nitrate leaching, more nitrogen is made available to the crop, enabling farmers to harvest the same, if not better, yields with a lesser number of urea bags. I come to understand one thing, whether I understand the article or not. I understand these two people as those people who want to brag how knowledgeable they are actually. They have no concern whether a layman farmer is able to understand this thing or not. They have no concern that whether even a middle class farmer is able to understand this or not. They have no concern whether anyone is able to understand it or not. Rather, they simply want to tell that they are so knowledgeable that rarely anyone can understand them. Fine. I underline it right now. I underline it right now. Volatilization. I mean, are you writing in a scientific journal? Right? A scientist might be able to understand what you are trying to say. Right? So therefore, either it be a magazine, but it is a newspaper. Fine. Together with products such as liquid nano urea, their ultra small particle size is conducive to easier absorption by the plants than with bulk fertilizers, translating into high nitrogen use efficiency. It is possible to achieve a 20% or more drop in urea consumption. Fine. That works out to be 6.5 to 7 MT fewer imports, equivalent to $4.5-5 billion at current prices. A second route is by promoting sales of SSP, containing 16% P and 11% S, and complex fertilizers such as 20:20:0:13 and 10:26:26. I ignore the fact, I simply underline a second route is by promoting sales of SSP and complex fertilizers. DAP use should be restricted only to paddy and wheat. Only to paddy and wheat. Other crops don't require fertilizers with 46% P content. India can also import more rock phosphate to make SSP directly, or it can be converted into weak phosphoric acid, or भी scientific formula बता देते. The latter having only about 29% P compared to 52-54% in normal strong merchant grade phosphoric acid is good enough for manufacturing 20:20:0:13, 10:26:26 and other low analysis complex fertilizers. I've started enjoying this article. As regards MOP, roughly 3/4 of the imported material is now applied directly, and only the balance is sold after incorporating into complexes. It should be other way round. Some solution, fine. India needs to wean its farmers away from all high analysis fertilizers. That movement to use more NPKs complexes and SSP is already happening. You can check out table 2 if you are not already exhausted. Anyways, it requires a concerted push alongside popularizing high nutrient use efficient water soluble fertilizers like potassium nitrate, potassium sulfate, calcium nitrate, etc. and exploiting alternative indigenous sources, for example, potash derived from molasses-based distillery spent wash and from seaweed extract. Finally, no plan to cap or reduce consumption of high analysis fertilizers can succeed without farmers knowing what is a suitable substitute for DOP. और तेरा article बहुत farmers को समझ में आया ना? And which NPK complex or organic manure can bring down their urea application from 2.5 to 1.5 bags per acre. It calls for agriculture departments and universities not just revisiting their existing crop-wise nutrient application recommendations, but disseminating this information to farmers on a campaign mode. Prasad is a fertilizer industry veteran, and Damodaran is National Rural Affairs Agricultural Editor of the Indian Express. Bilkul. He wanted to retain his job, so that's why. Now, what to do? So basically, first of all, after reading all this nonsense, some questions I can craft. Okay? Some questions I can craft. My first layman question is, first of all, the article talks about which fertilizers, there are some fertilizers we import. And the article tells me that we are importing a lot of it. As simple as that. Second, the article also tells me that it's not full picture, there are some articles which we manufacture also. But then the problem is that the raw materials that we use for the manufacture, that we import. Okay, fine. The article gives me a lot of figures, so therefore I can have a question, what is the quantum of the problem? That is, what is the size of the problem? Next question. So the article keeps on lamenting about high import of the fertilizers. So natural question, what are the negatives of high import of fertilizers? What are the negatives? Fine. Another question, what is the negatives of high use of fertilizers? That is, maybe the article will tell me. This question came to my mind, that even if the article does not answer this question is important. That what are the negatives of high use of fertilizers? Apart from high import bill, is there something more which is there negative? Why? Because I just read another article where they highlighted it as a problem leading to soil degradation. So therefore I want to know more. And lastly, what is the solution to the problem? Right? So therefore these are the general FAQs, very general. No, बाढ़ में जाओ तुम और तुम्हारे, you can get lost. These are my simple questions, which I want answer to. And now I need to organize this information into answer to these questions. So now what I do is, I do a second reading. Only of the highlighted parts. And I try to see that which highlighted part will fit into answer to which question. Right? So therefore, question number 1 was, which fertilizers we import and from where? Okay? So therefore, answer number 1, so I come to know, India imported whatever million tons, get lost, urea, DAP, MOP. Okay. So we imported urea, diammonium phosphate, DOP, muriate of potash, MOP. As simple as that. I don't want to make it complex by noting down how many million tons. Then the article tells me some all-time high or whatever. I don't care whether it is all-time high or whatever. Right? Fine. It is already too complex. Roughly $12 billion. Right? So roughly I can say $13 billion is the import bill. 12.77. I'm not interested in remembering 77. For me, roughly ballpark figure 13 billion. So therefore I come to know, from all of this I come to know that we import urea, DAP, MOP. This is the meaning of MOP. This is DAP. Fine. They are kind of fertilizers. That's it. And our import bill is $13 billion. Second point. Then I read the future. India also produced. Okay. So after reading this highlighted portion, answer to question number 2. Question number 2 was, which fertilizers we manufacture. Right? So therefore here I come to know that urea we manufacture, DAP we manufacture, MOP was not mentioned there. Something new was mentioned, something called complex fertilizers. And complex fertilizers, they are also defined here. Complex fertilizers, they are defined here, containing nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur in different ratios. So in simple, my own language I write down, those which contain NPKs in different ratio. Okay, I do not know what is N, so I should write down that N is for nitrogen, S is for sulfur, K is for potassium, and P is for phosphorus. Right? So that is what is there. So complex fertilizers we produce. So complex fertilizers are something like a khichdi, something like a mix of these NPKs, right? NPKs, right? So therefore complex fertilizers NPKs. This I need to note down. NPKs. I can make some mnemonic also. Something. Complex fertilizers, NPS, कुछ बना लो मतलब I've been part of the government earlier, so therefore I have written something like NPS, new pension system, national pension scheme, whatever. ठीक है, fine. NPKs. This much should be remembered, right? And plus we also manufacture what SSP. SSP I came to know single superphosphate. So therefore now I clearly see. Okay, what do we import? Urea, DAP, MOP. What we manufacture? Urea, DAP, plus something, two new things we manufacture. Complex fertilizers, single superphosphate or SSP. Fine, simple. What is the problem? Problem now is, by reading the next part, I come to know that we import raw materials for above production. In simple words I am writing now. Because in the next thing is, this was mentioned, the raw materials for the manufacture of these fertilizers were substantially imported, and then they go on to detail. Okay, so therefore we import raw materials for above production. That is a problem. So even the things which we manufacture locally, uska raw materials we have to import. So this is simple. A, we are importing finished good. Those finished goods which we are manufacturing, their raw materials we are importing. Right? Example. Now I simplify it. I say I make a heading fertilizer and its raw material. Why? Because the newspaper mentions it, and because I have prepared for UPSC, so therefore at times UPSC also can ask, this is from experience, that UPSC can also ask that, what is the, at least they will not ask how many million tons or ratios, etc., but they expect you to know that, okay, which is formed from what, some relation we should know. So fertilizer, when it is urea, so urea is raw material, RM is raw material. So I can use my own some short forms also. So for urea, we require LNG, and there is this highlight that 41% of India's LNG import, it is being used for making urea. Okay. DAP, right? DAP, that is your diammonium phosphate. So here I simplify it. How do I simplify it? In that particular, for DAP, domestic manufacturers import intermediate chemicals, namely phosphoric acid and ammonia. So I simply write down DAP, it is made by using phosphoric acid and ammonia, right? Then they say phosphoric acid and ammonia. Some even produce phosphoric acid by importing rock phosphate and sulfuric acid. So I make a structure randomly. Phosphoric acid also made locally by importing rock phosphate and sulfuric acid. ये भी लिखा हुआ है. It is written here only. The latter can be further made from import of sulfur. Sulfuric acid also made locally by importing sulfur. Okay. So this complex information, I am not going to go into super details, but since I am a beginner, maybe I do not know what is more important, what is less important. At least now I have a structure in my mind that okay, urea requires LNG, DAP it requires, okay, these two components, maybe later on I remember or not, but phosphoric acid, it can be made from rock phosphate, and sulfuric acid can be made from sulfur. So therefore, this can be imported, this can be imported, this will be fine. Ek structure, I have a structure in front of me, right? Do it only once and that's it. But I feel a sense of elation. Why? Because, but at least I feel, because such complex English now I have in the form of a flowchart. Right? तुम मेरा बड़ा बेवकूफ बना रहे थे ना, the letter करके, ठीक है? So I have simple this kind of a thing that okay, DAP is formed from phosphoric acid and ammonia. Phosphoric acid can be formed from rock phosphate and sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid can be formed from sulfur. Right. So therefore, I have this sense that I have converted a complex thing into a simple thing. Fine. I use the flowchart. Next. Then overall, they mention a statement that total value of fertilizers imports by India, inclusive of inputs used in domestic production, is a whopping $24.3 billion in 2021-22. So therefore now I write down answer number 3. Answer number 3 was, what is the quantum of problem, right? So therefore here I had written some quantum, $13 billion, but here now I write down, okay, so what do I see? Import of finished good, FG is finished good, that is fertilizers, plus I know raw material, kiska, of fertilizers, is equal to kitna? $24 billion. And here I note down that import of fertilizers was 12.77, fine, so 12 to $13 billion. So now see, I have a simple thing in front of me, that if our import bill is $24 billion, half of it is coming due to import of raw materials and half of it is coming from import of finished good itself. Okay, 50-50. So that means now I have a bird eye view that the problem of raw material import is also high, is as big as problem of import of the finished goods itself. Right? So therefore, very good that okay, 12, 24. This is so this is one line. You can do everything. I know the problem now. High import. Fine. Then further reading it, they were mentioning China, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, etc. Now what do I do is, as a student, I should go to map. As a beginner, it is my ethical responsibility that I should know where is Egypt, where is Morocco, where is all of these areas. And therefore, I cut down these things into simple thing, that I take a regional approach. So first, we see China, it is mentioned. I do not go into details, that exactly urea from where, exactly DAP from where, exactly MOP from where, because too much of information is there. I want to cut the clutter, I want to make it simple. So I see that I import it from China. Madam, please. मेरे लिए भी कोई बहुत ज़्यादा interesting नहीं है topic अब तक. First is China. ठीक. Then I see Middle East, and Middle East, that is Africa included. So nowadays Middle East, it is North Africa plus MENA भी बोलते हैं. Middle East, North African countries, right? So therefore I see कि कुछ नहीं है तो सब Middle East ही है. Qatar, Oman, ये वो, right? So I club it together. China, Middle East, in that side, Africa included, that is Northern Africa, plus other regions, Russia on the right hand side, Canada and US on the this side. Okay, so Canada, US, Russia, Middle East, China. Simple. Easier for me to remember. I cannot remember that DAP from this. Like, I make it simple. I'll be able to remember that, okay, we are dependent on China, the Middle East, and Russia and Canada and US for imports of fertilizers. This is simple information, easy to remember. Usually what UPSC aspirants do, they want to achieve 100 and they do not even achieve 30. Why? Because journalists, this exam, it is for journalists. You need to generalize things and therefore you need to simplify things. So therefore usually we tend to note down each and every because we want to be perfectionist, right? But simplification is very important. In the next paragraph they were talking about outflow of forex, that is when we are importing something, so therefore money is going out of India, and they were talking about subsidy bill. So therefore A4, what is my question? A4 was what are the negatives of what is the negatives of high import. So therefore I write down outflow of forex and subsidy bill. And my A6 was what are the solutions, how to solve the problem. So therefore here I try to reread the complex part again and I have extracted something simple. For example, increase nitrogen available to the crop per unit of urea by adding special chemicals. Example, ureas, nitrification inhibitors. This is simple sentence. How? What we are trying to say, they use complex English, I try to convert it into simple. What they are saying? By incorporating ureas and nitrification inhibition compounds in urea. That means by adding some two special chemical compounds in urea, we can do what? They are basically chemicals that slow down the rate at which urea is doing something and urea is nitrified, whatever. By reducing ammonia volatilization and nitrate leaching, more nitrogen is made available to the crop. Okay, so I know that by adding something to urea will lead to more, it is like mileage of car. It is like I add something to petrol and my mileage increases from 12 kilometers per liter to 20 kilometers per liter. I am able to extract more miles from the same amount of fuel. Okay, so anyways, ureas and some other compound added, and therefore same amount of urea will be able to give more nitrogen to the crop. As simple as that. So therefore I simply write it down. Increase nitrogen available to the crop per unit of urea used by adding some special chemicals. Example, ureas, nitrification inhibitors. क्या करते हैं क्या नहीं करते हाइड्रोलर समझ गया. Simple point is add something, add some special chemical, it will increase mileage of the car. In my notes I would have made some, that is example 4 km per liter increase to 20 kilometers per liter. लगा के, just for my own understanding. I want to understand, right? Second, then they were mentioning some liquid nano urea. Look at this complex sentence. Together with products such as liquid nano urea, their ultra small particle size is conducive to easier absorption by the plants than with bulk fertilizers, translating into higher nitrogen use efficiency. It is possible to achieve a 20% or more drop in urea consumption. Okay. So when I was reading this, I feel it is something like, it is something like I cannot explain. My imagination, it becomes different. So I was imagining, so it is something like, for example, if you have, it is something like you have like a red brick with you, or you have like a red clay with you, and you're trying to apply that red clay around the plant. Okay, red clay around the plant. Some parts of the plant are touching the red clay, they become red, but there are many parts of the plants which are not being touched by this red clay. Instead of it, if you have a red gulal, red spray, right, red powder, which you throw on the plant, so this small particles will be able to touch the whole red plant, and therefore the same amount of red unit is being applied, but greater absorption is there. Fine. So okay, so I write down, if we use liquid nano urea, nano particles, small particles, they have small particles, lead to, this is my symbol for leading to, lead to greater absorption of nitrogen per unit of urea used. So 1 kilo, 1 kg of urea, but if it is having small particles, then more efficiency. Less urea, more nitrogen. So, okay, as a layman, I understand that the whole story is about less urea, more nitrogen from that urea. This we can do by using some nano technology. This we can do by adding some additional chemicals. Okay, fine. Then, increase use of SSP and complex fertilizers. So there was this complex sentence, we should increase the use of SSP, NPKs in different ratio. I simplified it. Okay, we should use more SSP and complex fertilizers. Then I scroll up. So I find some common sense also. We import urea, DAP, MOP. We domestically manufacture urea, DAP. And then these two things, complex fertilizers and SSP, we domestically manufacture. Okay, so the guy is trying to tell us, use something more which you produce domestically. Why I was able to see this? Because I was making notes. In fact, this I am saying only right now. Right? So why am I able to see this? Because I had removed the clutter and I knew what do we import, right? So therefore I see, okay, so the guy is simply saying use such fertilizers more which you domestically manufacture, right? So he's saying इनको ज़्यादा use करो, इनको ज़्यादा, अच्छी बात है, right? So we'll decrease the import bill, right? Then use DAP only for rice and wheat, fine. Paddy and wheat, paddy is rice. Instead of directly using MOP in agricultural field, use MOP for making complex fertilizers. So this is nothing but a simple sentence of this complex sentence. As regards MOP, roughly 3/4 of the imported material is now applied directly. 3/4 of imported material, okay, 4 glasses, 3/4 of the glasses are applied directly. Is now applied directly, and only the balance is sold after incorporating it into complexes. Okay, so 1 glass of MOP I use for making NPKS complex fertilizers. Rest of the 3 glasses I use directly in the field. It should be the other way around. Okay, fine. Understood what you're saying. You can take your complex English with you and go home. Bye bye. Tata. I know that instead of directly using MOP in the agricultural field, use MOP for making complex fertilizer, that is NPKs. And ऐसे use करो तो somehow it is good. Why? Because somehow I understand, I'm not an agricultural scientist, but I understand using NPKs is good compared to using urea, DAP, MOP. Use complex fertilizers more. That's good, because that is what the article says. I do not know why. I'm not a scientist, but as a general layman person, okay, fine. Then increase use of water soluble fertilizers. He used a complex term, but I'm like, yeah, in the prelims, if they'll ask, they'll mention the whole thing, and in my answer, high nutrient use efficient water soluble fertilizers. I'm like, okay, इतना लंबा नहीं लिखना मैं, simple. Water soluble fertilizers. Increase use of water soluble fertilizers. ज़रा आसान है याद करना, right? So, because इससे भी क्या मिल रहा है मेरे को? So, for example, if you are having this particular glass of water, where you have mixed something which is evenly mixed, right? Now, if I throw this water on you, right, then each and every small particle will touch your face, right? Whereas otherwise, if I put some 2 coins in it, which do not dissolve in it, right? So मैं कितना ही try कर लूँ, whatever I try, it will not dissolve. So after that, so that means the idea is nothing but simple. वहाँ पे there was that red powder, clay and red powder, water soluble nutrients. That means wherever the water will go, water can reach small pores also of the body of the plant. So therefore, idea is simple. Use water soluble, use nanoparticle, so that limited amount it touches the whole body of the plant, every pore of the plant, and etc. So that it becomes good. It is high use. More nitrogen from same amount of urea. Water soluble. Okay, I understand that. Fine. Your core theme is you should be able to extract more mileage from the car. And for that, you are adding some special chemicals, you are suggesting nanotechnology, and third, you are suggesting water soluble fertilizers. And what are these fertilizers? Okay, fine, some name are there: potassium nitrate, potassium sulfate, calcium nitrate. I will not remember it in the exam, but right now, okay, let me just write down, just for the sake of prelims, because in the prelims I need recognition, nothing. Anyways, itna bhi nahi puchenge UPSC mein. Then last point, increase alternate sources. I don't want to note down complex. Good molasses. Right? वो समझ में आया? And simple, seaweed. Understand weed? Seaweed. Right? Seaweed extract. ठीक है? पता चल गया किसको? Who all understand weed? Those who started smiling, they're like, And seaweed, it is something else. Seaweed extract. They were using very complex term for it. Their term was this. Yeah. Alternative indigenous sources, for example, potash derived from molasses-based distillery spent. Are bhai, fine. Molasses are there. Who can give me some fertilizer? And seaweed extract is there. At max, I can use potassium from, or use potash from molasses and seaweed extract. This much. So therefore now what I have, now I have all of this simplified information relatively. I don't know how much you feel that it is simplified, but initially I was, as a student, I was fearing this article a lot. Even when I was making these notes, I was like, I don't know how I'll be able to simplify it for the students, but I was happy looking at the product. And then the next thing that I had is this. So I added a page, right? And I now simply copy pasted the question and the answer. So therefore, what do the article tells me? Which fertilizers we import and from where? China, Middle East, Russia, Canada, US, we import from there. Urea, DAP, MOP, right? They are also known as high analysis fertilizers. वहाँ पे लिखा होता, तो यहाँ ऐड कर लिया. So total $13 million we import. Question number 2, which fertilizers we manufacture? So urea, DAP, complex fertilizers which have NPKs and SSP. However, the problem is we import raw materials for the above production. Fertilizers and raw material. Urea it is made from LNG. DAP it is made from phosphoric acid and ammonia. Fine, I have written it, but I am not interested. But this can be made from this. This can be made from this. Okay. What is the quantum of the problem? Overall import of the fertilizers plus import of the raw materials for domestic manufacturing of the fertilizers. So that is the quantum of the problem, $24 billion. Half, 50-50. What are the negatives of high import of fertilizer? Forex goes out, that is dollars they go out. And second, subsidy bill increases. Question number 5, what are the negatives of high use of fertilizers? From the Sathwal article I know, bad soil health, contamination of water and food chain, plus decrease in crop yields. How do I know this? From the Sathwal article. Right, so I did that. Question number 6, what is the solution to the problem? I jotted down like this. So now I have this 1.5 page of A4, right? And after this, if any article comes on fertilizers, so therefore I'll try to see that whether I already have a question for the information that is given, or the article forces me to think of some new question. But overall, I have a scenario that what is the economic side of the fertilizer import? Okay, so that I know. What is the domestic manufacturing? We manufacture, but raw material is less available. Overall, I know what is the quantum of the problem. Yes, I have less information with respect to this negatives of high use of fertilizer. So I'll be looking forward to any article which tells me what are the negatives on the soil health, etc., etc. I should have 2-3 more points here, right? And otherwise, solution side, I have enough, right? In fact, a little more technical. Maybe if I get something more, something like farmers setting up some self-help group that distributes, which disseminates awareness, or some civil services award comes to any district magistrate who has been successful in raising awareness of the farmers with respect to this thing. So fine, I'll add solution. This is just a technical solution. Maybe there can be an economic solution where the government makes these complex fertilizers more cheaper, right? That will be economic solution. This is technical, economic, social solution in the sense, social political solution in the sense that some district magistrate or some self-help group or some private sector doing something so that complex fertilizers are used more. Fine. So then I'll add 2-3 more points. But after 2 pages or after 2.5 pages, my life with respect to fertilizers is so done. Seriously, now you have this information in front of you. Do you think how much more can come? Now when I have this, so whenever a newspaper article comes on fertilizers, what I can do is I can do a Control F if I have organized notes, or I can read that article, then I can read my original notes and then decide that which is same information just in different words and which is new information, and in the new information which is amazingly new information and which is average new information. If something is amazingly new information, I'll add, otherwise, okay, tada, bye bye. So at least this is with respect to mains preparation. With respect to mains preparation, I can utilize the newspapers by having at least 2 pages on any topic. But honestly, I actually was thinking that this article is way too tough, but okay, overall I have इसको पढ़ के मतलब मेरे को लगता है कोई ज़्यादा फाइट नहीं है. It's okay. इतना था नहीं जितना इंग्लिश पेल रहा था ना. So much of English that he was using, उतना वो था नहीं. It's okay. You are more scientific. You are getting into ratios and all. We are journalists. We understand what you're trying to say. Use complex fertilizers more. right? Use such ways of application of those fertilizers so that nanoparticles, water soluble, right? So that more mileage is there. That is what you're saying. Overall, you are saying import these three: urea, DAP, MOP less, manufacture more SSP and NPK is fine. That is something which is our indigenous. उसको हम ज़्यादा focus कर सकते हैं. Fine, अच्छी बात है. Good. Okay. That's it. You're scaring us, ऐसे. So we're gonna break off 11-12 minutes. After this, we'll take up some of the general principles of how to read. So usually I do this exercise at the end of the class. But I thought that this is also a very good way of introducing you to the FAQ approach by bottom up, right? So this is called bottom up approach or ground upward. So we'll meet in 12 minutes and then we'll discuss rest of the elements. All these questions, how many newspapers, how many blah, 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 right? So that we'll deal with. So what we saw is the application of the FAQ approach, right? Now there are 3 sample newspapers that we'll be uploading and 1 PPT. So whatever we are discussing, that is also in the form of PPT. That is how to read newspapers, right? PPT will be there, plus 2 samples from March also. You know, some samples are there. So you can refer, multiple examples are there. So isme, now we are going to look at some of the general principles. Right, so these are further more examples of FAQ approach applied. Right, this is a Purana newspaper, but that does not matter. The newspaper is of which date or whatever. What matters is that whether we know how to apply the FAQ approach. Yeah. So these are some of the principles which are there. And the most important principle is, so these are the rules of newspaper reading. These are the rules for newspaper reading. Right. First of all, let us begin with a strategy. And that is, actually when we used to prepare, so basically I gave 3 attempts. Right. In my first attempt I cleared my prelims, in my second attempt I cleared my mains, and in my third attempt I cleared my interview also. Right. So therefore, in 2014 I got selected into Indian Revenue Services. Right. In 2020, 2021, just before the pandemic, I resigned. Right. I resigned because how animated I was in the first half of the class. So you know that I enjoy. Right. So therefore, life mein maza rehna chahiye. Right. So there is a saying, moj lo, roz lo, nahi mile to khoj lo. Right. So therefore, the simple point is that if you are not repeating the same thing in English would be complex, but I'll try. That is, you should enjoy your life, right? And you should enjoy your life every day. And if you're not able to enjoy your life, then you should search for what motivates you to feel a little more alive. So I've seen the best of the government of India. I represented the government of India at international level, for whole 2 years, right? So every month I used to travel abroad. So Paris, it had become like second home. Right, I traveled to US also, traveled to China also, as part of the Financial Action Task Force. So therefore, we were part of the delegation where the Pakistan was grey listed and all of these things. Right. So your recommendations on cryptocurrencies, they were also drafted, with our participation and all of this. So many seniors used to be there. I used to be the junior most member. But when you are the junior most member, you are the actual person who is doing all the groundwork, all the hard work. Right. So I was one of the favorite of all of my seniors. Right, and that has been the case in my private sector job also, and that was the case here also, right? So continuously I used to get 10 on 10, right? So I had experience. I worked with every top organization. I had worked with the NSA office. I had worked with all the top organizations which you can think of. So all of my curiosities and all of this, everyone became a very normal person for me, right? So therefore in the last I got a kind of like a bad boss, right? So therefore he threw the file on my table or something like this. He did. Right. Later on he repented. Later on he wanted to get the same information, but not important. But then I started, because of that, some bad boss and some bureaucratic culture, I started reanalyzing that what is finally good. So I realized that there is a huge amount of gap between IAS and other services. So IAS, right, it is like, you usually say that is caste system like thing. So basically many of the posts, they are reserved only for the IAS. many of the posts, they are encarded posts. So therefore, even if my passion was this foreign services, my foreign services was my first choice. So that's why when I got the opportunity of deputation to FATF, I took it and I did very well in it, right? And but I realized that because I'm not into foreign services, neither I am into Indian administrative services. So therefore, I'll not be able to be on those posts when I become senior. I'll be remitted back to my original department, and I did not like doing all this CA-like work, looking at account books and feeling, I mean, it's kind of weird kind of a thing. Weird kind of thing like, what is job of an IRS? Right? IRS is a negative job. You take money out of people's pockets. You force them to pay tax. So people, they don't like you. Because your function is a negative function. You take out money from the pockets of the people, right? So I'm a good person internally. So there's like fine, right? So in fact, those who I raided etc. they still respect me. They still send me Happy Diwali, and I'm like, dude, I raided you. So I made you, I made you deposit lakhs of rupees to the government of India. So, but the other person replies that, sir, but your behavior was very good. No one talked to us with that respect, the kind of respect that you gave us. I go, okay, fine, whatever, right? But when you are in IAS, so IAS is a positive job. You either create business opportunities or you create, employment opportunities. You put something into the pocket of people. So that's why IAS is also called MIBA. Right? And otherwise also they dominate these important positions, and therefore there's huge amount of service rivalry is there, and that's why many of the people who know about it, even after qualifying for the IPS, I do not come from a bureaucratic background, right? So those who qualified for IPS, they were still trying for IAS, and I used to think that they are such a foolish person. They're very greedy for power, and power was never a motivation for me. That's why IFS was the first choice. IFS is not that powerful. But then I realized that actually there is a power differential, but it took 5 years for me to realize. And then I started evaluating that, what makes me happy. So I used to come to Vision IAS on weekends at times, to give some motivational speech or something. And there I used to enjoy a lot. And then next day I used to go to the job, and there I used to see this bureaucratic thing and all of this, and I used to be like, man, I like it there better. So I contemplated for 1 whole year. I did all the pros and cons analysis. My family members still, they do not agree with me, right? So I do not want you to follow my path or something like this. But my parents, yesterday only my father was like, he met someone, and that someone was saying that why did your son resign from the services, he should not have done this, this was a wrong decision. And now my father was creating trouble for me mentally at home. Right? So even when it is like more than roughly 2 years of this, but still I have to bear the consequences. But I was like, okay, dude, I was always a very average kind of a student, right? So what is my passion? Why do I love this? I love this because I'm a fan of underdogs. I'm a fan of underdogs in the sense, those who the world thinks cannot achieve anything. I love those guys. Kapil Dev, myself, I was always a very, very average kind of a student, right? So therefore, in my 8th class, when when my uncle, he used to teach for maths, when he came to teach me, because I got pathetic marks, I got 33 out of 100 in maths, right? And my percentage was 51%. So therefore, my mother called him, Vicky, you try to explain maths to him. So he spent 3 days with me, and after that, he declared that nothing can happen. It's a gone case scenario. It's a gone case scenario, nothing can happen. But still, something had happened. I had deviated from the right path in 8th class itself, and I had got 51%. And in the parent-teachers meeting, my class teacher had complained a lot about me, right? I had not taken her to parent-teachers meeting, but later on she wrote in my diary that your parents didn't need to come, so I had to take my mother separately, right? So there she said very wrong things about me, which were right, but said very wrong things about me. She said that your child will run away from home. Your child knows whose affair is going on with whom, right? Of the whole school. Your child is hanging out with, students who are not very good students of class 11, 12, etc., etc. And then, my mother slapped me in front of the whole school. Right. so therefore after that I thought that matter is serious. So I started being serious in the class. Then this teacher was called who declared me a gone case scenario. Right. But then after 4 months 5 months 3-4 months उसमें 4 semesters होते हैं ना स्कूल में. Right. So somehow from 51% I got 86.8%, and in maths I got 33 to 97 on my own. So there I realized that okay, I can do something. Right. That if I become very ziddi. So therefore I realized one thing, that only one thing is needed to become successful in life, and that is zid. Zid is something like your determination. You're like just mad. You do not do anything. And then I decided कि अपन को चाहिए अब इज्जत. Right? I want respect. Respect. Right? And therefore I tried to analyze that okay, who gets respect? And then I found out that that mad teacher who slaps me, who throws chalk at me, right? Some 11th, 12th class students come, they are very pally with that teacher. I tried to identify who are these guys. I came to know these are from non-medical. And I decided that okay, I will do non-medical. Why? Ijjat, respect, right? Then I tried to find out what is the top thing in non-medical. They told me there is something called IIT, right? So right in my 8th class, I went to this Vidya Mandir classes. They used to be very, very famous for IIT. They told me you have come 2 years earlier. I said, okay, time to relax. Again back to same path, 61%, 64%, 66%, 70%, 9th class. Then 10th class came. So again now 10th is very, very important. Some kind of social status is attached. So therefore I started being serious in the class. I got 81%. A cake was cut in my house. My parents were very, very happy at 81%. Why? Because in my whole family, no one has ever got. Plus, I was the most senior person, child, right, in both the sides. I got 81%. My parents were very happy. Nowadays, people commit suicide at 95%. Right? My parents very, very happy. 81%. Then, so finally, I was able to get into non-medical. I started preparing for this Vidya Mandir. I did not go. Fiji I joined, right? And then, but goal is that I'll do this kind of thing, right? So after this, I was like ijjat, respect, and respect every way, right? So like right now I'm fat, right? So therefore that is a childhood problem, right? That is a childhood problem. So the first proposal I made to a girl, she rejected me saying that you are fat, right? Fine, right? So fine, but now I wanted ijjat. Right. So therefore now in my class 9th and my class 10th, I used to run every day, 4 kilometers regular running, then 3 hours of badminton, sweating it out. So therefore when I came back to school in my class 11th, after the 2 months break, so everyone was surprised because I was lean like anything, as if I have attended some kind of a military training. Right. So therefore that is respect. And then I got a proposal, which now I rejected. Why? 2 elements. A, respect. Second, I am preparing for IIT. How can I get deviated? Right? I am preparing for IIT. How can I get deviated? Right? Second problem was public speaking. Right? So which right now I am doing. So I had only one experience of public speaking. That was class 4th. Thought of the day was a topic. And I could not speak that thought of the day. My ears were red and I could not even complete it. And then the teacher escorted me, ki beta tum aa jao. Now 6 years have passed, 7 years have passed. Now in class 11th, I'm like, this thing needs to be conquered, right? So therefore I request that I need to be part of some debating competition which was going to take place in school, right? I prepared for it. Right, I would used to enter the empty auditorium. I would speak, and therefore, yes, ears were red on that day also. But I spoke, and I got first prize. The only debate in my school time I attended, got first prize. That's it. Done. Check. Respect. Right. Never participate in any debate again. Done. Now the focus is IIT. Right. Going 11th class, coming back, crying in front of mother. Right, not able to understand anything. 11th class. They found one good teacher. A teacher who explained the why part of things. The chapter was momentum of physics. From that chapter I came to realize that something is possible. I can understand it. I am able to solve. Right? And H.C. Verma was the book. So therefore in my class 12th, I started preparing for my 11th PCM simultaneously. And now suddenly, now time came when the teacher will give some questions. The toppers of the class will solve it later. I'll solve it first. Right? So therefore this kind of thing. A great day came when the vice principal called me and she asked me that you should not prepare for IIT. Why? You used to focus on boards because they now certainly felt that this person, if he focuses on board, then the school will be able to get a topper or something. So therefore they had a vested interest. I'm like, sorry, my focus is IIT. Right? So therefore I started preparing for this thing, IIT. A very satisfying thing came when I became the only student of my school to qualify for IIT. And all those toppers, who used to mock me, all those toppers, behind whom I used to sit, and I used to in class 12th, class 11th, that please tell me what this maths teacher has dictated, because I was trying to improve. So therefore they used to answer a couple of my questions. Third question, they were like, please, you are wasting our time. But I suffered the humiliation. Why? Because focus was this only. All those people who used to laugh at me in the class, Fidji. Why? Because that's why I say, jisne ki sharam, uske phute karam. That is, the person who shies, who cares for self-respect, they are giving away a chance at success. So when I used to be in Fidji in class 11th, chemistry teacher was there, D.K. Dev sir, very good teacher. So he used to ask question. He used to ask, have you understood? Right? I used to raise my hand. Because no injat. I have nothing to lose. A person is more dangerous when he has nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose. Right? So he'll explain it to me. Then he'll again ask, looking at my facial expression, have you understood? I'm like, no sir. Again ask, have you now understood? Some doubt was still there. Sir, everyone would start laughing. Everyone. But I'll keep on raising hand if the teacher is giving me an option. Many of those students were crying when the results came. And I was smiling when the result came. Right? Because I was able to qualify. Done. Life is now again chill. I want to enjoy life. Ijjat attained. Now, IIT, 5 point someone. Again back to track. 61%, 60%. Back to enjoying life. Because teachers, they had promised one thing, beta, ek baar IIT kar lo, life set ho jayegi, to kar li. Teachers used to say, if you do IIT, then life is set. So, I feel betrayed now. Commitment was only till then. Now they are asking me to continue even more hard work. No. Only this much. Right? 5.82 CGPA. 5.82. 5 point someone. अपन अलग मजे ले रहे हैं. We are saying, हमारे ऊपर किताब लिखी हुई है. किसने? वह नहीं अपना 5 point someone. अपने ऊपर मूवी बनती है. 3 Idiots. Right? So therefore, 5 point someone. Right? So therefore, well, finally, but when I cleared IIT, some of my relatives, they said that okay, now we know that in IIT, flukes also take place. तुक्के भी लग जाते हैं IIT में. Such kind of confidence they had on my demerit. So therefore, that's my champion is, my person is that person who is sitting at the back of the class, the backbenchers, who have only one thing with them, and that is their dream, and the whole world thinks that they cannot do anything, right? And therefore, when I look at them, and when they study hard for it, I feel this reliving of my glorious days. So it is a very selfish pursuit I'm in. I'm trying to relive the nasha of that era, right? Of your 2000s, right? So even if I'm able to help qualify 4 or 5 underdogs like me, right? So therefore I feel that I have re-achieved the thing. So that is my kick, right? And therefore that is why I try to tell you that these are the things which if you focus upon, then if a person like me can clear UPSC, then anyone can clear UPSC. Simple. If a person like me can clear UPSC, then anyone can clear UPSC. You just need to know the why part of things. You just need to follow the FAQ approach. You just need to focus on this understanding. Get out of the race. Get out of the race. This is what is there. And also understand one thing. I realized last sentence, karm kar phal ki ichha mat kar. That is Bhagavad Gita. And you should not focus on the result. You should always focus on the process. It is very easy to say, very tough to implement. But life makes you implement. So by the time period of when I appeared in my second attempt and my interview, I was very, very conscious. I had taken 4 copies of my every document. Just in case UPSC should not be able to say that you are not Mr. Himanshu Khatri. Right? So therefore, and my ears were red like anything in the interview. Right? I was fumbling like anything. But by the end, therefore, I got very pathetic marks. 150 I got out of 300. Then I gave the your wala attempt. That is when one option was there. And this time again I applied for interview. This time I realized that, this time I was like, ki yaar, UPSC, whether you want to select me. If you don't want to select me, right? This attitude was there. That I will do something else then. Get lost. Right? I only carried one copy of everything. Right? That's it. No newspaper, no nothing. Right? In that interview, people were looking at the today's newspaper. I did what I could not do in the past 3 years, I'll do in 5 minutes. Right? Right? Relax. Enjoying. Right? And I entered the UPSC room. I forgot everything. I don't need anything from you. Because you have wasted my 4 years, man. My friends, my colleagues, they are doing, they are in US, etc., after IIT. What am I doing here? You wasted my life. I don't want anything from you. You want to take me, but this kind of thing is there. But yes, I respect you. You are elders. You ask me questions, right? So therefore, I answer the questions without focusing on whether this is a right answer, wrong answer. Question hai, main hoon, that's it. This is my small world. Me and the question, that's it. No brand consciousness. No brand consciousness. And in fact, I think I am the only student in the history of UPSC, only aspirant, who the chairman said, okay, thank you, Himanshu Khatri, you can go. I am like, man, yeah. Oh, Paji, sahi mein. He has asked a question, foreign services was my first choice. He has asked a question on soft power. He asked a question, I was not able to answer. And then he answered it for me. And I said, yes, sir, yes, sir. And they said, okay, Mr. Himanshu Khatri, you can go. I am like, apan ko chahiye respect. We don't want your UPSC or anything. I told him, sir, if you don't mind, I would like to take just 1 minute more of yours. He was surprised. Because no one says this. Once the UPSC chairman says, go, you go. Who are you? I am. Right. Sir, 1 more minute. He said, yes. Sir, you are totally correct when you mentioned that songs, they are part of soft power. Example, in Russia, in this particular competition, right, these songs are being sung, which are from movies like Avara Hoon, etc. And sir, second, you are also right when you said that Indian food is also an example of soft power, because there is a market in Oman where the Indian food sells like anything, and this is the location of that particular market. Actually, I had been able to remember, in those 1 minute, I was able to remember that, okay, I could have answered this thing, but I forgot. I'm like, answer apan de ke jayenge. Okay, right? So he said, okay, thank you. I got the highest marks in interview. I got 206 out of 275. When you do not want anything from the world gives it to you. When your focus is only on samajh ke padhna, focus on why, then the world gives it to you. When you're studying with the focus on result, then the world takes it away from you. When you propose, they say you are fat. And when you do not want any proposal because you are focusing on IT, they propose. That is the karma, that is the way life runs. When you want something too much, the things run away from you. And when you do not want it, when you're focusing on the process, when you're focusing on yourself, the whole world comes to you. And that is also the saga of UPSC. Those of you who will be over-focused on clearing UPSC, less focused on understanding, those of you who will cheat with yourself, I am making these notes but I do not understand the meaning of these notes, you are not going to clear the exam. And those of you who will focus on the why part of things, yes, we need to manage, we don't need to do PhD, but still, like we have given an example of that very complex article where to try a general FAQ, you will be able to very easily clear this exam. You will be able to very easily. Yes, luck factor is there. 100% efforts and 100% luck. Both factors are there. There are very good candidates who might be because of some factor they are not able to. It happens. You miss prelims by 1 mark. It is luck factor. That does not mean you are not worthy. So therefore, anyways, coming back. So what is the strategy? So why I started this journey? I started this journey in the sense I started blabbering for the last 15 minutes or so. Why? Because something had popped up in my mind. And what had popped up in my mind was that when we used to prepare, right, so therefore from there I remembered that why I prepared and I started giving this sermon I started giving. Anyways, when we used to prepare at that point of time, 2 optionals used to be there. And therefore the focus of the coaching institutes used to be not on general studies, their focus used to be on optionals. And as a result, we had to prepare the newspapers on our own. Well, I preferred preparing on my own. So therefore, my whole preparation of current affairs was totally self-done. And I totally relied on newspapers, no reliance on coaching. However, once the exam pattern has changed, now the coaching institutes, they deploy very good efforts at compilation of current affairs from different sources. And therefore, the right strategy today is that for your current affairs, you focus totally on some good coaching institute magazines like Vision IAS. You can choose some other coaching institute also. Why? Because they study Indian Express, they study the Hindu, they study the Mint, they study Yojana, Kurukshetra, etc., 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 and they compile FAQ orientation ke saath, they compile Vision IAS magazines. And some other good coaching institutes are also there. I am not promoting one against other or anything. But Vision IAS, because I know internal machinery, they are pretty serious with respect to, preparation of current affairs. Because every coaching institute wants that when the questions come, they should be able to claim that it came from our current affairs. So they make all the efforts, right? So they have a vested interest, right? Because everyone wants to promote. Fine, that is one thing. So as a result, what should be my approach? My approach should be that I should rely as much as possible on the monthly magazines. And then PT 365 and Main 365 comes. How much? So nowadays someone was telling me that UPSC focuses on not current affairs. Like what? A new term has come, contemporary affairs. But bhai, ye kya? Okay, not of past 1 year, but past 2 years. Contemporary. Past 2 years, past 3 years. So therefore what one can do is, if I focus on what you call as, if I focus on, let's say, PT 365 of the past year, then I've completed 1 year. The content, if I focus on 12 magazines, it will be this much. PT 365 compiled 1 year, good. Plus if I focus on 1 year of your monthly magazines before prelims. So therefore then I'll be able to have, I can tell it to myself that I have done 2 years of current affairs, which is good enough. My workload has also not increased because only this compiled version is there, and monthly magazines I'm doing of this thing, right? So therefore this is how, if I do this, then I am sorted. If I do this, then I am sorted for respect to next prelims. That is one aspect. Then where does the newspaper role comes in? Newspaper role comes in if I focus on editorials. If I focus on ideas page of Indian Express. If I focus on what you call as I explained section. Why to do this? 2-3 aspects are there. First of all, every editorial is an essay, right? So therefore, if I am reading the editorials, then every day I am reading 2 or more editorials, 2 or more essays. So therefore, in a way, I am learning the art. Very subconsciously, I am learning the art of essay writing. That is one of the aspects. Second aspect is, I am improving my reading comprehension for CSAT. Third point, I am now learning how to analyze issues. What is the difference between an editorial and a normal newspaper report? A normal newspaper report simply tells you what happened. Minister of State presented this bill. The leader of the opposition criticized the bill. Right? The parliament will meet from this day to this day, etc., etc. What? They focus on what? Editorials, they focus on why. Editorials, they focus on impact. And that is the bread and butter of UPSC. If you focus on the why of any event, be it optional, be it your general studies, be it your current affairs, you have to simply focus on why an event has taken place, right? And second, these is the 2 most common FAQs. What is the impact or what is the result of this particular event? Reasons and consequences. What is less important? Reasons and consequences. There lies the bread and butter. Right? For example, UPSC asked a question in last prelims, and most of the coaching institutes, some of the coaching institutes, they got it wrong. Right? They got it wrong, according to me. So they asked a question that the immediate consequence of the 5th schedule is as follows. right? And that means they were asking about the intent. Why fifth schedule? First option was to create a local self-government. Second option was to prevent sale of land to outsiders, tribal lands to the outsiders. And third option, something, something, something. Answer is option number A. Many of the coaching institutes have given answer option number 2. Right? Anyway, that is a separate matter. Why? Those students would have been able to answer that particular question correctly if they had read the original fifth schedule and they would have tried to identify why fifth schedule. What exactly? And when they would have enumerated the reasons, they would have find out that compulsory Y is Tribal Advisory Council, which is a local self-government, and optional Y is transfer of land. Even among the outsiders, even among the scheduled tribes or by the scheduled tribes. Because उसमें लिखा हुआ है governor may make regulations to prohibit or restrict transfer of land by or among scheduled tribes. Word may is there. Anyways, that's why you should always read the original Constitution of India. It is the best preparatory material for reading comprehension of CSAT. Anyone who feels that their English is not good and they are afraid of CSAT, simply just start reading the Constitution of India. How? Whenever any newspaper article comes which mentions any part of the Constitution of India, go to Control F PDF of the Constitution, read that particular original. Right? So therefore, why? Because in the Constitution of India, you learn the art how to write a paragraph without using a full stop. How to write a whole paragraph of 6-7 lines without using full stop. Right? So if you are able to understand that, you will be able to understand if you are able to comprehend the Constitution of India, you will be able to comprehend everything. Right? So anyways, so that's why for essay, for reading comprehension, for analysis. That is how your editorial becomes important. Right? So this is what is there. Another aspect comes into operation, whether to make notes out of editorials or not. So there you have a choice. Because you have your Visionized magazines, they are the ones who are doing the editorials also. So therefore, if someone tells me that, sir, we need to clear just 2023 somehow, and my just 1 year of age is left. So there I will tell them that, okay, totally focus on the Visionized magazines and just simply read the editorials. Do not focus on making notes then. But at least apply the FAQ approach while you are studying it so that you read it with understanding. Right? And FAQ approach, for example, economics. Economics, if you read a newspaper article which says the Monetary Policy Committee of Reserve Bank of India met yesterday and decided to increase the repo rate. Consequently, there will also be an increase in the reverse repo rate. The Reserve Bank of India was concerned about rising inflation. The US Federal Reserve had also recently intended to do a rate hike. And therefore, consequently, the Reserve Bank of India has also finally sprung into action. This will have a negative impact on liquidity and growth. However, the inflationary pressures, they need to come down. So therefore, I'm like, what? I do not understand what you have said. So therefore, what will be the FAQ approach? FAQ approach here will be, first of all, I need to know, and this will be a one-time exercise, Monetary Policy Committee. Did I understand what is a Monetary Policy Committee? Even after reading the whole paragraph? No, I'm a beginner. I do not even know what is a monetary policy. So therefore, let us go to Google and type question, what is monetary policy? Right? Maybe I've heard the word fiscal policy. So I can ask difference between monetary policy and fiscal policy. Whatever first Investopedia or any article that comes, read it, understand it, move ahead. What is MPC, Monetary Policy Committee? Whatever first article comes, read it, one paragraph, understand that, okay, it is a decision-making body of the Reserve Bank of India which decides what should be repo rate, reverse repo rate, etc. Fine, okay. It's a decision-making body. Then next question, what is repo rate? What is reverse repo rate? What is relation between repo rate and reverse repo rate? How increase in repo rate leads to decrease in inflation? What is inflation? How do we calculate inflation? What is liquidity? What is US Federal Reserve? So therefore, yes, 1 hour will be required when you read such an economics article for the first time. But this is a one-time exercise, and if in your Word file, in Evernote, etc., if you are, in simple terms, if you are writing down the meanings of these terms, then tomorrow when you read such an article, you're like, okay, my Google work I have already done. If I'm not able to understand, simply open that document in which you wrote down this. Control F, fiscal deficit. Control F, budget deficit. Control F, repo rate. Control F, monetary policy. Read your simplified definition. Come back to the article, read. One-time exercise, but trust me, if you do this, literally half of the prelims or 80% of the prelims questions of economics, you'll be able to attempt on your own. You do not require any coaching institute. In fact, 100%, frankly, 100%. 100% prelims of economics, you'll be able to do. No need of any coaching institute at all. Whenever you read anything related to economics, if you're not able to understand, Google it, jot it down. Focus on creating a dictionary. You, at the end of the day, after 6 months, you'll have a dictionary, which will tell you what is fiscal deficit, what is budget deficit, what is inflation, what is WPI, what is CPI, how is WPI different from CPI, right? All of these things you can have. You can have a 20-pager on your own, which will clear you. At least, you know, if you don't make that document, at least try to read anything after understanding it. इतना मतलब focus रहना चाहिए. So this is the FAQ approach, right? So that is it. Second component that comes into operation is that you should be focusing on one newspaper is enough. Right? One newspaper is enough. You can use either the Hindu or you can use the Indian Express. Right? You can use either of them. Right? The only problem with the Hindu is it is very, very critical of the government. Imagine a scenario, I have a driver. Imagine a scenario, I enter into the car and my driver tells, sir, today you are looking pathetic. I'm like, okay. I could not understand. Maybe I, misheard it. Right? Then a red light comes, he says, sir, you are the most pathetic boss I have had. And he's driving the car. At the next red light he says, sir, I don't think you have taken a bath today. I'm like, I have. Right? Next point, again he starts criticizing. Sir, I think you are a very filthy looking guy. इसको इतनी अंग्रेजी कहाँ से आ गया? Right? And I'm like, I just get down and I'll fire him like anything. You are preparing for being a civil servant. Servant. Right? And therefore you do not have any authority to give character certificate to the government, to your master. Government has failed. अरे भाई तुम कौन होते हो बताने वाले? अब तुम बताओगे. Now you will tell that the government has failed. Who are you to tell the government has failed? So therefore, yes, those people who are writing the editorial, they feel that they are the fourth pillar of the democracy, etc., etc. Therefore, it is their mandate to criticize, to be very, very harsh towards the government. But you need to apply filter. So therefore, what is your FAQ with respect to any policy tool? Your FAQ is, what is this policy /law /scheme? Reasons for government bringing this policy /law /scheme. What are the positives of the schemes? What are the negatives of the scheme? How can this particular scheme be improved? These are your FAQs. So therefore, whenever you are reading the Hindu and whenever they are criticizing the government, wherever a judgment is being given that the government has failed, remove that venom. And try to focus on why the article is saying that the scheme is bad, that the law is bad, that the policy is bad. And therefore, simply without any venom, add that to your answer to your FAQ. What can be potential loopholes? So you can write down, as per some scaled stakeholders, this feature is absent in the law or in the policy and it can be misused. And therefore, one suggestion is that this feature should be introduced. Right? So therefore, it is simply one of the elements, simply you have removed the venom. And you have tried to take out the constructive criticism. Because as per the ethics of the civil servant, you should be required to give, you are required to give free and fair advice also. So therefore, the politician will ask you that if some protests are taking place, the politician will ask you why these protests are taking place. Right? So you will not be telling the politician, sir, they are saying very bad things about you. A politician like, fine. Why they are saying these very bad things? What is their issue? What should I do that the problem resolves? So therefore, then you mention that, sir, actually the ration card delivery, it is not smooth in some of the districts, and coronavirus took place, people lost their jobs, so there was an acute, requirement for this good service delivery which was not there. So we should improve, we should give ration cards and do checks post facto rather than pre facto checks. Matlab, authentication should be done later, pehle de do sabko. That kind. So this is something constructive. Right? So whenever you read the Hindu, you have to apply this particular aspect. Second aspect is the newspapers, they do not give you solutions. Most of the editorials, they are critical of the government. So therefore, what are the positives of a policy, a law, a scheme? Answer to that FAQ is not available from the newspapers many of the times. Some tricks they can be applied. For example, an editorial critical of the government says, the government claims that MG Narega will increase employment. However, the reality is this. Okay, fine. I know one of the potential positive, that MG Narega can increase employment. So therefore, wherever the editorials are indirectly mentioning something positive about a scheme or a policy, extract it. And whatever is written after, however, add it to potential negatives of the scheme or the policy or the law. So this is how we can extract. Second is, if you go to the Government of India websites, whenever any law comes or any policy comes or any scheme comes, instead of focusing on the coaching institute summaries of the scheme or the policy, policy में तो मिल जाएगा आपको, but at least for some law or some the same scheme, go to the Government of India website. Government will tell more positive about itself. They will tell you the successes of MG Narega. They will tell you the successes of the PM CARES fund, whereas the newspaper might be simply criticizing. So therefore, try to search for the positives on your own, and you will get something in form of some Government of India website or something. If you feel that Visionaries magazine has not given us many positives of this particular scheme or achievements of this particular scheme, then search it on your own and do value addition. So this element is there. One newspaper is actually enough, because you have Visionaries magazines and your focus on the newspapers is only the editorials. So therefore, for the content, you have Visionaries magazines. It is only for these purposes, for developing opinions, for developing analytical skills, for reading comprehension, for essay, that you are reading a newspaper, and therefore this thing is there. Another aspect is there. So therefore, we have covered that how much of newspapers they need to be read. Another aspect is there, if you want to clear UPSC, right? I mean, current affairs are important, but if the current affairs are important, then general studies core is very important, and ethics is very, very important, and optional is very, very, very important. I'm not saying that the current affairs are not important. I'm saying everything is important, but if I have to build a hierarchy with respect to effort to reward ratio, then at the top comes optional, then comes ethics, then comes general studies static part, and then comes the current affairs part. Why? Because current affairs is an ocean, general studies core is a river, ethics, it is a pond, and optional is a lake. And therefore, if you have a bucket with you and every day you take out one bucket of water, chances are you will be able to empty the pond. You may empty the lake also with super hard work. You may empty, a well, but you will not be able to empty the ocean. Plus, what is relevant today? For example, you are beginning your preparation today, and I tell you that 1 year of current affairs or 2 years of current affairs before the next prelims, it is relevant. Imagine you are there and this is your second attempt. Somehow you failed in first attempt. And therefore, when you had joined coaching last year, then also I would have mentioned that PT 365 of last to last year plus 1 year of current affairs. And now you, the second attempter, and you, the first attempter, you're today at the same date. And for both of you, I'm saying that prelims say 1 saal pehle ka, 1 year before prelims and this thing. Will you not feel that, sir, then when I have done the current affairs of last to last year, so is that a waste of effort? Because some static part will be relevant. Some static part, some super important news, they will stay relevant even today. But at least 50% of your effort is a waste. Why? Because what is important in current affairs today, tomorrow its importance might come down. Its importance might come down. The utility, the importance of the alpha variant is much less today compared to the importance of the Omicron variant or the Delta variant of the COVID. So therefore, you see, many of the times what happens, the things which you might feel are super important today, as time passes, you come to realize that they are not that important. Right? So therefore, but if you had made notes of GS core, ethics, optional, they are like loyal Charlie 777. Have you seen the movie Charlie 777? Amazing movie, very beautiful movie. Right, very beautiful movie about a dog. They are loyal. The core part, the static part is loyal. Whatever effort you make, each day's effort will add to your marks. In the current affairs, it is an ocean. Dagabaaz hai wo, unfaithful hai. Today, they are with you. After 1 year, they are not with you. So therefore, plus effort to reward ratio. Every day, 365 days are there. In one newspaper, 20 pages are there. Even if you eliminate 50%. So 365 days into 10 pages into 10 articles. Imagine every day you have a mini novel to read. Whereas in your optional, if you do 2 proper books, your 250 marks are secured. Right? So that is why I suggest that instead of going for Yojana, instead of going for Kurukshetra, that is instead of over focusing, prelims may be current affairs 30 questions. 30 questions, important hai, manna, it is important. But instead of, if you are very thorough with Visionized magazines, if you are regular in reading the editorials of one newspaper, then why should you go for Yojana or Kurukshetra as a second magazine? Try to see that what is the return on investment. And therefore, for example, if you have PSIR as an optional, why should you not go for a magazine like Foreign Affairs, or a magazine like Diplomat, or a magazine like Foreign Policy? These magazines are there. They will really help you in your paper 2 of the optional. If you have psychology as optional, why should you not get hooked on to some website which publishes latest application of psychological theories? If your optional is sociology, why should you not search for any magazine or any website? Or maybe get in touch with your professor who used to teach you in college. That, sir, in my paper 2, I need to focus on the application part of the theory. Can you tell me, is there any magazine or is there any journal, if not very widely circulated, maybe available on website of some Harvard University or some Indian university, where I get to know the contemporary developments? Because in paper 2, they ask for either contemporary developments or they ask for application of theory of paper 1. Right? For example, geography. Maybe you should go for Down to Earth magazine, which is more relevant to geography paper 2. Because in this ecosystem, what happens, which no one will tell you, but you can ask any one of your friends who is into the second attempt or the third attempt, optional ka jo paper 2 hai, which carries 250 marks, that is the most neglected 250 marks. You ask anyone, today it is, for example, let's say June, people who appeared for prelims, ask them that those who have cleared prelims, what is their task until October, when the mains will take place. Many of them, they will say that, sir, I have completed everything, but my paper 2 of optional is pending. And those are 250 marks. Therefore, you look at your return on investment. Many can that those who are reading Yojana, they are negatively, hurting their preparation. No, I'm not saying that. But the point is, where is the ROI? Whereas how much difference in marks will be there, a person who had read Yojana regularly and Visionized magazines versus a person who has read only Visionized magazines but has done thoroughly Visionized magazines. Not much difference will be there. Not much difference. So therefore, try to identify some source for your paper 2 of optional, and also try to begin your preparation of optional as soon as possible. Because real preparation takes place through self-study. Get out of this coaching circle as soon as possible. Because real study happens when you wake up in the morning. At max you have one class to attend, and then the whole day is available to you for thorough revision. While you are in the coaching, you will not be able to remember. After 3 months, you will not be able to remember the first subject that you studied. Ultimately, you have to do revision, thorough revision. Multiple revisions have to be done for remembering. So that is with respect to your number of, sir, whether should we go for Press Information Bureau? No. Because the Government of India, I know why the Government of India publishes, it is a legal requirement that whatever financial decisions or whatever legal decision the Government of India takes, it is the responsibility which is assigned to Ministry of Information and Broadcasting that every department should publish that information. So they are not publishing that information by keeping UPSC aspirant in the mind. And any which way is Visionized magazine, they are looking at that. So Press Information Bureau, Yojana, Kurukshetra. If you have agriculture or if you have maybe public administration, then fine, you can go for Yojana, because Yojana is about policy making. If you have sociology as an optional, maybe then, because schemes, social sector schemes are good, important. So maybe for sociology, Yojana is a good magazine. But that you would have to see the syllabus of your optional and try to see that whether this particular magazine is relevant to your optional. I would say that instead of magazine for current affairs, focus on outside magazine for optional. I feel that this, you can do your own survey. आप पूछ सकते हो that in the class today sir said that optional paper 2 is neglected. Ask someone, you are living here, there will be some students, aspirants who have prepared. So try to ask that how much of, whether this thing is true, that optional ka paper 2 is, usually neglected by the students. If you find truth, follow common sense. Don't follow me, don't follow any particular topper. Follow common sense, right? So whatever works for you. So that is what is there. Next aspect, are all editorials important? And all of these things, they will be answered by this particular. So what not to read? What not to read? So 20 minutes are left, we'll cover it. For example, anything which is political, that is any news that belongs to any political party, that is not important for you. So therefore today, in yesterday's newspaper, there are 2 editorials which talk about MBA, right, Gadbandhan, Agadi, etc., right. That is not important. Why? Because it is politics. And as a result, not all editorials are important. You have to be, your ethic is of being apolitical. You need to be politically neutral. You cannot be allied to any one particular political party, and UPSC, that's why will never ask a question that why the Shiv Sena led coalition fall out. This is not a UPSC question in any of the past history of UPSC. So anything which is political, anything which is related to individual law and order incident, some theft taking place, someone dying, some individual corruption case, not important. Some terrorist incident, not important. Some Maoist incident, not important. That is not important. UPSC has never asked that why a particular terrorist was arrested. UPSC has never asked that why Pulwama attack happened, right? So, ऐसा नहीं पूछते हो. They do not ask that question. Then, news of private companies. So, you cannot have any private vested interest. So, news of, for example, Amazon taking over Future Retail or Reliance taking over Future Retail. Such news are not important. Coal India Limited declares dividend of 12 rupees per share. Not important. Right? It is not important. Why it is coming in the newspaper? Because their clientele is not just UPSC aspirant. Their clientele is large. They publish newspapers for many sectors. Right? So news of private companies is not important. Right? Policies, laws, schemes, which are in draft stage. That is not final. not important. So for example, news item comes, bill introduced in parliament, not important, right? Similarly, draft policy, not important. Draft scheme, not important. That is, unless the things are very, very close to exam. Why? Because today a newspaper article will come on this particular bill. Tomorrow another newspaper article will come. Some parliamentary committee might be formed. And finally, a final law will take shape. So therefore, why should you waste time? So therefore, when you are preparing for UPSC, you can have this mnemonic in your mind that I am preparing for something important. Even my parents, even when someone asks my parents, what is your child doing? My parent also say, he is preparing for UPSC. Any more questions? The padosi says, the neighbor says, no issues. Right? So it is a fact. So you are preparing for something important. You're something important. Right? So therefore, Parliament, please do all your chores. Do all debates. When you're done, then you tell me. Then I'll make notes. Then I'll read. Right? For example, unfinished visits. Prime Minister Modi. Right? Newspaper item comes. Prime Minister Modi to visit Russia. I am preparing for IAS. Mr. Modi, I respect you. Plus, but please, you go, you discuss, you debate. When you come back, then you tell me. Because I am preparing for UPSC and my preparation is super important. Maybe that's important for you. It's important for me. We have different priorities. So therefore, please. Why? Because when he comes back, then an article will be there that these were the decisions which could not be taken, these were the decisions which have been taken, these are the positives, these are the negatives. Then I'll apply my mind, otherwise my plate is full. Similarly, for example, a court case, PIL filed in Supreme Court. Okay, defense lawyer, you do your thing. Prosecution, you do your thing. Right? Judge Saab, you do your own thing. Once you are done, after multiple hearings, then an article will come which will tell me that in summary these were the arguments of the one side, these were the arguments of the second side, these were the arguments of the judge, this was his interpretation of the constitution, and therefore then. Right? Let's say this judgment was of subordinate court. Let's say High Court. I'm like, please, there's so many high courts in India. Do you think I would have time for each high court? Usually what happens in India, people go to Supreme Court, right? So go to Supreme Court, do this charade again. When you think finalize, then you publish an article, then I'll focus on you. Otherwise, sorry, I'm not interested. High Court, Supreme. I am supreme, right? Hey, high, you are high. Stay high, I'm focused. District Court? District? Viladepura district. I'm not interested in district. What district? Right? District. Yes. Swag. So therefore, you focus on things which are, what is the element here? The element is, let's say there is any student who says, sir, I'm still in first year of college and I have started preparing for UPSC. Yes, I was surprised. There are such students. Such level of focus. I mean, I feel like a failure. I completed my college, then I worked for 2 years in private sector. Then my tube light switched on that I need to prepare for UPSC. This guy is so focused. First year, not focused on enjoying the college life at all. Not focused on enjoying the college life at all. Very focused, right? So students are there. Someone has said, I'm in class 12th. Focus, amazing focus. It used to, I know. We enjoyed life more, वैसे. Anyways, right? So, what should I focus upon? My attempt is after 3 years. My attempt is after 2 years. The element is, we should read those articles which we feel have life. For example, if you read an article which tells you what is inflation, what is WPI, wholesale price inflation, what is consumer price inflation, what are different kinds of inflation, right? And how inflation impacts the government's budget, and how inflation impacts RBI decision making, and how inflation impacts the overall economy. This article is very, very important. Why? Because it has life. These concepts, they have permanent life. It does not matter whether any UPSC aspirant was giving exam in 1990 or he's giving exam in 2022. What is inflation? Is inflation. Permanence. Right? So therefore, more the effort of lifting my pen and making notes when something is having more life. I'll not make notes on scientists discovering some new species of fish. Why? Because tomorrow they will discover another. And therefore I'm not interested. But if an article says why different species of fish exist, that is something which has life. For example, if a newspaper article is there which tells me that ISRO has launched these 12 satellites, after 3 months it will again launch 12. Life is not there. However, if there is an article which tells me that what is PSLV and what is GSLV and why India has very superior PSLV launching capabilities but weak GSLV launching capabilities, so that has life. I'll focus, I lift out my pen, I make notes here. I make notes here. This is something more important. This has life. What is fiscal deficit, budget deficit? These are concepts. They have life. So therefore, I'll try to identify that things which have life. Let's say a constitutional amendment bill. It comes rarely and therefore it will have life. A constitutional amendment act, it would have life. If a law is finalized, then that law will dominate the governance of India for decades to come, maybe. So that's why for me, laws, policies, they are important. They will be operational for the next 20 years. That's why they have life and they are more important to me. They are more closer to my heart. Right? Today a terrorist incident takes place. Tomorrow another will take place. Sad reality. That's why not important. Similarly for Corona. Today a variant comes. Hurry, initially we made notes. Later on we realize alpha, beta, gamma, theta, delta, theta. Now, इज्जत ही नहीं है कोरोना वायरस की कोई. There is no respect of coronavirus. Another variant comes, we are like, अच्छा एक और आगे कोई नहीं. You know, so see, so therefore life is not there. However, if an article comes which tells me why viruses mutate, that will be relevant for a student who is preparing in 1919 or who prepared in 1919 for civil services, because Spanish flu came then, and his notes would have been utilized by his great-grandchildren when today coronavirus came. Why? Because why viruses mutate, that is a principle which has life. समझे आप? So therefore focus on those aspects which have life. Similarly, why focus on optional? Because whatever theory that you study for your optional paper 1, it has life. It will come to your use in this attempt and God forbid in second attempt. Right? But it has life. So therefore focus on things which have life. Court cases which are yet not adjudicated, lower court judgments. Why? It does not have life. High Court might overturn this. Then Supreme Court might overturn this. So I gave you it in a funny manner that we are preparing for IAS, but the concept is this. Life is not there. And then you make all the notes for this Supreme High Court judgment, and then Supreme Court judge comes and gives something totally different. Then you're like, what? You have done a PhD on a court case. That's why. Similarly, budget. When budget is about to come, thousands of articles come. If you start making notes on all of them, then finally a budget comes. And then there are articles analyzing the budget. So therefore, if you have to prepare for budget, wait it out. Don't even read all the articles. Let the budget come, right? Read the original budget document, right? There the government also gives a rationale that why we are doing this. Coaching Institute, they will also come out with summary of budget, economic survey also. Wait it out. Otherwise, it will be double, triple effort. Right? So that is the element. Underdevelopment, that is developing news. Example, Prime Minister on a visit, but yet not concluded. COVID crisis, some FTA which is under negotiation, complete it. Complete the free trade agreement, then the article will come, and then I'll look at it. So complete the treaty, then will come. Russia-Ukraine war, let things stabilize, right? So some things which are stabilized. India has taken a stand on Russia-Ukraine crisis. That is stable. So therefore, उसके हम notes बना सकते हैं. Why India took that stand? That is also stable, right? So therefore, we can make notes. What is the impact of Russia-Ukraine war on India, on world economy, on Russia, on Ukraine? Those things are also now gradually stable. So we can make notes now, right? So therefore, things which are stable, which have life, they are more important, right? So therefore, for example, geopolitically, if there is an article which says that major problem with respect to Russia is expansion of NATO after the end of Cold War. So geographies, they do not change. And this is a long-term perspective. Long-term reasons for a conflict have stabilized. Long-term reasons for India-China border dispute, they are stable. We can make notes of it. So any article which talks about reasons for India-China border dispute, yes, we should make notes of it, we should study it. Without doing a PhD. That is exactly what is name of each mountain. MT 1, 2, 3, 4. अरे भैया नहीं. This peak, that peak. नहीं. Simple. Simple. Right? Similarly, Indus Water Treaty between India and Pakistan. It is a stabilized thing. Right? So if any article comes which analyzes the Indus Water Treaty, positives and negatives for India and Pakistan respectively, the disputes around it, yes, it is more or less stable topic, we should study it. Right? Issues which are transient in nature and will not have lasting impact. Example, a new variant detected. Number of cases as on today. It does not matter. Today the cases are, let's say, 5,000 per day. Tomorrow it will be 6,000 per day. How does it matter? It does not. Personalities and sports, leave it totally. Right? So focus only on the state level, district level issues. Not important until unless it is your district. Acha, also another thing that you should do. I believe. I am a person of belief. As simple as that. If there is one thing which keeps me alive, it is belief. The day my dreams die, I would, like to then totally chill. वैसे थोड़ी कहता कोई, the day my dreams die, I'll die. Right? Enjoy. Feel full to enjoy. Right? No mission then. Right? Totally. Just enjoy. Watch 5 movies, 6 movies in a day. Right? Anyways, I have done that. I used to feel burnt out. Right? So therefore, some of the students, they say, sir, we are feeling burnt out. Motivation nahi aa raha hai for the UPSC. What is the answer? Exhaust yourself with enjoyment. But do it in as compressed form as possible. Right? So if you like to watch movies, start watching, get up at 4 a.m., start watching movies, Amazon Prime. Keep on watching till 4 a.m. of the next day. You want to have pizza? Have all the 4 meals of pizza. Exhaust yourself. जब उससे पक जाओगे फिर अच्छा क्या कर रहा है Article 14. So therefore that is the way, right? Exhaust yourself, right? But you cannot totally be serious totally 24/7 365 days, right? So take breaks, right? So क्या कह रहा था मैं उसको, what you should do is, I am a man of belief, right? So therefore you should also be that. मतलब learn anything, don't learn anything from me, just learn one thing, कि how such a dumb person, that is me, ठीक है, right? How come he cleared the 2 toughest exams of India, right? So there's something to learn at least. One thing is, just learn one thing, and that is belief. That is belief. Person is mad, but fine, belief. One thing is good, belief. So therefore you should believe that one day you will be appearing for interview. And therefore you should download DAF today, DAF. And it is not just a matter of belief, it is very, very important thing. Download DAF, fill the DAF, detailed application form. That is filled by those candidates who are appearing for interview. When you fill that DAF, you'll come to know that they ask you about the place of birth, where you were born, at which all places you have studied, in which all colleges you have studied, right? Where those places were. They will ask you about your hobbies, whether you have done NCC, NSS or NSO, any significant achievements in your life, any job that you have done in your life, right? Your graduation, that is your undergraduation. And then you come to realize that they can ask questions on anything in your interview. And what actually happens is that you have many of the times only 1 month is left for interview. And you come to realize that there is this huge syllabus, literally a syllabus as vast as mains, which is there for interview, and you have only 1 month to prepare for it. And then you start getting mad ki my hobby is this, I do not know what they will ask. For example, my hobby was singing. But then I narrowed it down. I wrote it down. Singing Hindi Bollywood songs. What if they ask about classical music? What if they ask about classical music? What if they ask about Western music? So that you cannot tell me that I have written something flimsy. No. But then when I started preparing it, friends, I had to study 2 books. Global Bollywood is a book, right? And Bollywood music, traversing the journey of Bollywood music as per the current events of those times. How did the popular culture changed, and how did different musicians, different singers, they came, which were very, very significant movies, which gave a new direction to the nature of music, right? So I had to read this much book, but I was prepared. They did not ask me anything from it, but I was prepared just in case they ask anything. And therefore I realized कि यार इसके लिए भी एक novel पढ़ना पड़ता है. We have to read a novel for this. I was surprised. I searched simply on Amazon books on Bollywood music, and I found there are books, and they are pretty serious books. I hated art and culture, and now I'm studying art and culture of Bollywood music, right? That ways, right? So, anyways, so therefore, अपन को क्या करना है? What we have to do? Whenever we find any article which is related to our DAF, we don't have to study it if they are not meeting the criteria for general studies preparation. Just go to the internet, search the heading of that article, Control P, that is take a printout in the form of DAF in front of PDF, and just keep on storing it every day. Just have a look at the newspaper. If you find anything related to your job, related to your birthplace, related to your art and culture of your birthplace, so anything which you feel that it is related to your personal profile, simply go to the internet, download PDF, keep storing it. The great benefit will be once you appear for mains, you simply go to that folder and you know that okay, I have 300 pages or I have 150 pages of information which is related to my DAF. These are the current events, these are the current affairs, these are the current developments of me, of my personality. So therefore your preparation for interview is sorted. At least you have the syllabus. Otherwise, syllabus of interview, it is not available in the market. That is, no book is there in the market. It is you. So therefore, this thing you should do. Just simply start collecting articles right away. Right? For example, civil engineering. Right? 5.82. And then I was like, yeah, what to study in civil engineering? In the past 2-3 years, which are the important bridges which have come up in India? In the past 2-3 years, which are the important developments which have taken place in civil engineering world over? And I had to spend huge amount of time searching for that information, right? So, but if I had done that on a regular basis, मुझे पता भी नहीं चलता. It would have taken only 10 minutes per day, but I would have been sorted, right? So therefore, you do this effort because one day we have to face the interview. We should have the content. It will just take 5 to 10 minutes per day. It will just take 5 to 10 minutes, right? So that's there. What to read? Anything which is conceptual, analytical, relational, causational, that is why part of things. Second, concepts, finalized laws, finalized policies, finalized schemes, finalized Supreme Court judgments, constitutional amendments, reports by institutions of the state. For example, parliamentary committee report. Why? Because we are government servants and a servant should know what the master is doing. That's why. Reports by international legal organizations. That is like United Nations or some regional organizations. Editorials, articles that are about learning from history, other countries' experiences. Let's say there's an article which tells us that how Kerala did very good tracking of Nipah virus. So therefore, this will answer my FAQ. What have I learned from my past and how to utilize that knowledge for the present COVID virus. Right? So therefore, the government of India should have this, country of India should have this collective knowledge with them that in the past, what were the challenges of polio vaccination and can we use the learnings to better do vaccination of COVID? Right? Otherwise, what is the utility of history? Those who do not learn from their history, they perish. Right? So therefore, if there is any article which talks about learnings from history, from other countries' experiences, any best practices, right? Example, state level best practices which can be replicated all across India. One example, for example, civil services awards, they come every year once. Right? They come every year once. Usually what we do, okay, we simply read it, that's it. Ideally what we should do, go to the internet, search the keywords, search the name of the bureaucrat who was given the civil service award, the scheme which he implemented, Google it. Try to scroll down. You will find some government of India or the state government website which tells you about that what exactly was the challenge in front of him and how it became a case study, why the government of India chose that particular bureaucrat to give award. Because in the newspaper, space is less, 20 civil servants are being given award, so they will not tell you the details. But what do you have now? A, you have probably good case studies for ethics. B, you know what are the positive parts, what are the solution part of the problems. Otherwise, newspaper is all about problems. So therefore, civil services awards, why they were given, how a scheme can be best implemented, it is very, very good, especially for those who have public administration, those who have ethics, which everyone has, right? Essay, everyone has. So you can get good content for your essay also, as a solution part of things. Wherever the essay is not philosophical, wherever the essay is practical, right? So that is it. Neglect facts, focus on trends and outliers, like we did in today's two examples. We did not over focus on facts. Organizations of the state and their mandate. That means, for example, the government of India creates Lokpal. So that is important for me. Let's say an article comes on, just say some time back there was a article on high powers or extra powers of Enforcement Directorate. So there was an analysis that whether Enforcement Directorate should be this much powerful or should not be this much powerful. So yes, so that becomes important, where they will be talking about PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and all of these things. So wherever any organization of the state it is mentioned, then it is important. Policies and analysis of internal securities issues, disaster management. So for me, individual law and order terrorist incident is not important. But if there is an article or editorial which tries to analyze that how terrorism has evolved over decades in India or in South Asia, that becomes important. If there is an article which tells me that this is the government of India policy on tackling Maoism, in fact, a very good source for preparing for internal security, instead of any coaching institute, go to the MHA website. In the MHA website, they have the policy on Maoism, where they detail that what are the reasons for growth of Maoism, where they detail what are the different steps the government of India is doing for Maoism. So therefore, very good document MHA website has internal security. So if any article comes with respect to such a policy level decision by the MHA, then it becomes of relevance, right? So, but individual issues are not important. Overall, which tells us something. Disaster management. So let's say news article comes that some particular disaster is attacking or hitting the shores of, some cyclone is hitting the shores of Odisha. Name of that cyclone, etc. They are petty information, fine. In UPSC prelims they can ask, Vision IS magazine will cover. But why cyclones constantly hit our eastern shoreline?
Yes.
What institutions have we developed from our past experience to deal with this disaster? As a district magistrate, what are the role and responsibility to manage disaster? Right? So therefore, any article which comes on institutional amendments, institutional reforms regarding disaster management, that article is relevant to me. Not that some rainfalls hit, etc., that this much mm of rainfall has taken place. Something which is talking about this kind of a thing, analysis. Anything boring is usually important. So one parameter is whenever you find a headline which is boring. For example, the two articles that we did, super boring, but you see, important, right? No criticism of the state unless it is done by the state itself. For example, let's say there is a SIT of Supreme Court. There is a committee of parliament, or there is a committee established by the government of India itself, or there is a criticism by some United Nations organization, right? And that criticism which has not been rejected by the government of India. At times, the United Nations, it says something very critical, which the government of India refutes. So therefore, that becomes important, right? So no criticism of the state until less constructive criticism you can do, right? But whenever you are giving any certificate, government has failed. You can give that certificate only when the government itself gives it that certificate, not some random newspaper editorial writer. So this is there. Any doubts from your side? So that is the newspaper session from my side. Any doubts from your side? I can take. Yes.
Indian Express.
Regarding farm laws. Hijab controversy. I thought Punjab controversy. Okay. So see, what is our template? Our template is anything which is political, it is not important. Anything which is political, it is not important. What becomes important? As a student, if the article tells me that what is secularism, what are the features related to secularism in my constitution, is there any Supreme Court judgment which talks about something related to this? That is some settled issue in form of a Supreme Court judgment? Is there any Government of India law which gives minorities the right to follow a particular, so what is the legal issue? Forget the emotions, forget that whatever criticism it is there, right, whatever communalism it is there, become a lawyer. If there is any point which mentions that as per the law of the land, whether this particular, particular clothes or particular uniform or particular thing, it can be vote in which kind of institutions you can wear it, in which kinds of institution you cannot wear it as per the law of the land. Some international best practice. हाँ? Freeze हो गई क्लास. ये आपका अच्छा तरीका हमें कहने का कि सर निकलो हो गया टाइम. तो कुछ नहीं है, ठीक है, क्लास तो वैसे भी ओवर ही है, बस एक ही क्वेश्चन. So basically you have to get rid of the emotional part of it, you have to get rid of the controversial part of it, become a lawyer. Think like a lawyer and become totally dispassionate, right? And focus on that these are the rights provided to minorities by the Constitution of India. This is how these rights have been interpreted by the Supreme Court, and this is what the rationale behind the High Court judgment was. High Court had also interpreted the law. So therefore, whatever social comment, merely who is supreme? High Court. When you become a civil servant, you are like this in front of the court. Sir, the judge will say, have you come to cinema hall? And you are a chief secretary. You're like, no sir, this is the normal desk code, sir. This is what your life is. Right? So understand, as a civil servant, what is supreme for you? So the editorial writer, they can write anything. For you, supreme is the state. And by state, we do not mean just the executive, legislature, executive, judiciary, military, bureaucracy. These are the supreme. So therefore, if High Court has interpreted, आपका सच क्या है? जो High Court का सच है. Your truth is what your Supreme Court's truth is. That's your only truth. Rest criticism is, however, some stakeholders also feel given very little space in your answer. That is there. Any other doubt? Ideally, how much time? So if you focus on Visionize magazines and if you focus on the editorials, so therefore if you do the editorials with this particular FAQ approach and the approach that, for example, in yesterday's editorial, if you give me this particular newspaper, right? So here you see, here I explain section, I will definitely read. But for example, in the I explain section, Khalsa TV and its surrendered license in UK. Not important. You see, you tend to find that, okay, fine. What FPI's market exit means, this I'll see. Because here, some concepts will be there. It will tell me that why the foreign portfolio investors, that is FIIs, they're exiting the Indian markets. And here I'll see a lot of things regarding inflation, regarding rates being risen by the US Fed, etc. So therefore, that's it. COVID vaccines prevented 42 lakhs deaths in India in first year. Global study. Fine. So this will do. Goa's Sao Jao festival and why revelers jump into wells and ponds. I mean, if you're from Goa, definitely you should read it. Otherwise, you can leave it to the Vijayanice magazine. So you see, if you cut it down like this, and your editorial, for example, this Shiv Sena dissidents from Maharashtra in 5-star luxury in Guwahati surrounded by flood and misery. Very opinionated, it's political, fine, not needed. The meltdown, again, not important. Same suffering, government must help build resilience against recurring floods. Yes, I will read it. Because why? It is boring. Right? So they are talking about something which I can learn. So I'll read it. Maybe I find something good here. Maybe I not. So overall, you see, how to train a karma yogi. So they are talking about, training of the bureaucrats. Fine, I'll read it. Right? Usually, they have the biggest nepotism, the private sector, and they keep on criticizing the bureaucrats like anything. Anyways, right? So you see, maybe 1 hour. 1 hour is good enough. Right? So, but focus on quality. As a student, if you have studied only one article in one day, but you have followed the FAQ approach, that is, you have understood the issue, trust me, you will be far better than those who have not understood the issues and those who have simply, read it. Why? Uska logic hai. Uska logic isliye hai. 365 days are there. So many articles come that issues, they will be repeated. They will get repeated. Vijayanice magazine, they will also cover. So therefore, what is your real earning? Real earning is that, it's like you are watching a very movie at a very 1.5x speed. You watch the whole movie, but you are not understand any scene. So just, trust me, I know it's very tough. The anxiety surrounding all of this thing is very, very high. And whatever I say, without failure, you will not understand it. I know that also. I know that because anxiety around it is very, very high. Everyone around us is like, "मैं तो पढ़ लिया आज का newspaper." Everyone is like this actually. But trust me, if you are understanding and reading, even if you read 2 editorials every day, given a limited amount of time, but अगर समझ के करते हो, try to do this for 1 week, and then whoever your roommate is or whoever your fellow person is, ask him that what you know about this issue. And when he will remain mum, and you will have a 360 degree approach, right? So then you will feel कि हाँ ये मेरा काम कर रहा है. मतलब that is the way you can get a sense of confidence. तो वो चीज़ है. Yeah. Don't focus on notes making right away. Do notes making when you feel a sense of confidence. Basics notes making. Try to judge yourself that whenever you make notes, you should make notes of those things which you have sense of confidence that they will stay with me. Given very paucity of time, you are making very high, allocation of resource by making note on something. So you should be very sure that this particular issue, जिस पे मैंने notes बना लिए, ये मेरे काम आएंगे. They will come in handy. So, for example, if the notes are on about the basics of economics, repo rate वाला example that I do. Yes, that note you can make. But something which is very transient, right? Something which is very transient, उसका notes बना के जरूरत नहीं है. For example, today the article that we took, both the articles, right? In the initial phase, you may not make notes out of it because we do not know whether soil, out of the whole climate and environment, soil, and there also this high detailed, etc. So, on the side you can make this kind of notes जैसे हमने बनाया just for the sake of understanding, but do not make efforts. So you'll get a sense gradually as your preparation goes on. Right now you focus simply on reading. Over a period of time you'll get a sense कि this is important and मुझे उसका notes बनाना चाहिए. Things which get very, very repeated. For example, when inflation gets repeated a lot. When, for example, this thing, your food distribution. Right. So when you're preparing for UPSC, a lot of articles they come on public distribution system, MSP, minimum support price. So therefore you tend to know कि it's important because this issue keeps on getting repeated like anything. So therefore try to read newspapers initially just like that. After 2-3 months you'll get a sense that okay, these issues they keep on getting repeated. I need to jot them down at one place to understand once and for all कि है क्या यार चक्कर. So that is all. Yes. Leave it to Vision IAS. You should focus more on the conceptual part and the analytical part in the newspapers. Leave whatever you feel is too much of fact, etc. to Vision IAS magazines. वो कर देंगे. Saksham is asking, sir, how to choose optional? See, choosing optional, first point is that A, what was your graduation subject? If you loved your graduation subject and if you are a very good student of that graduation subject, no matter what topper says what, you go definitely for that particular subject. Concept is simple. बेवकूफ बनाने की दुकान है. Concept is simple. It is all gimmicks. Every optional is equally tough. Those people who told us that take public administration, it has smaller syllabus. Later on, I was reading 3-4 books of optional public administration. No optional is small. No optional is small. Right? And even if any optional is small, then UPS also knows that that optional is small. And therefore, they will ask tougher question from it. Because of which, you would have to definitely go beyond the standard sources of books. Every optional is equally tough. And for every optional, you would have to devote 12 hours a day. There will come a point of time when you would have to give 12 hours a day. Sweat will start from here and it will come till here. And your eyes, they should not go this. If you are excited about your optional, you can do anything for 10 hours or 12 hours on a continuous basis for a month or so, only when you find that thing interesting. Right? कहने में आसान लगता है, interest. No, why? Because we are in rat race. Why nowadays, when we started preparing, the top 2 optionals are public administration and psychology and geography. Why today they are not the top optional? Why? Because UPSC, when too many students, they start taking up an optional, the UPSC cracks it down like anything. In 2012 mains, all of us in psychology and public administration, we got marks 40 out of 300. 12 out of 300. 12. Not one person, many. At 45, one would be topper out of 300. And why? Because continuously for the past some years, the toppers, they were having either public administration or psychology. And UPSC cracked down like anything. And as a result, the coaching institutes who were flourishing, the teachers who were very, very famous, who used to have 10 batches of psychology, they now have only 1 batch of psychology. UPSC cracked down. And therefore, who benefited? No one used to know anything about anthropology, sociology, right? Anthropology, sociology, then your PSIR. Very average kind of optional are there. Nowadays I ask anyone, sir, anthro. I'm taking anthro. Why? Rat race. Some toppers they come. Let's say All India Rank 1 comes top 10 may, people calculate that, okay, which are the options which are there in the top 10. Right? So fine. We'll take this. As a result, what happens? More and more aspirants, they are taking one particular optional. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If 51% of the people, they are taking sociology, there is 51% chance roughly, I'm not a mathematician, but 51% chance roughly that the top 10 people will be from psychology, from sociology. So therefore, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Rat race. More and more people, आप किसी से बात कर लो, anthro, PSIR, sociology. The history is repeating itself. Very soon, someday, UPSC will crack down like anything. Sir, anthropology syllabus is very loose, sir. So only 2 books we have to read. UPSC knows all of these things. It knows. Their people, they come to Rajendra Nagar, they take the coaching notes of the famous coaching. They simply ask the shopkeepers, कि भैया we need to prepare for history optional, कोई notes दे दो. And they ensure that question is not asked from them. They know that who is, how many number of aspirants they are appearing in this, and they then apply scaling. Right? So therefore, best optional is which is your interest, so that even if the UPSC cults, you are able to stand strong. That's why. And otherwise, if you have no interest, go for an optional which is neither in the hated list, nor in the loved list. Middle, mediocre, which is out of sight, out of mind. Best. Trust me. Because Seriously, PSIR, sociology, anthropology, I know na. Bhukt bhogi, I've seen it na. Both my options were culled like anything. Psychology and puppet, both. Both. किसी से पूछ लो. You search on Google. 2012. 14 marks, 10 marks. So therefore, safest are like nowadays I feel public administration. Good option. Public administration, neither favorite of UPSC nor the toppers are taking it. ठीक है, not everyone is running behind it. So therefore, anyways, you can choose. Interest है अगर PSIR में तो PSIR is the best, even if UPSC is culling it like anything. That's why if you have done anything in graduation, for example, someone is a CA. If he loves the accounts, go for CA. Don't worry about it. If someone loves botany, go for botany. Don't worry about it. Right? Go for it. And trust me, उसमें I have the data also. Highest percentage, 100% selection was from Bodo language. One person gave the exam, got selected. 100%. Similarly, others also you see, those subjects which are law, medicine, they have decent success percentage. वो उसमें क्या है ना कि thousands of students they will take sociology. So naturally percentage 4% will also give you. किसी से पूछोगे मार्केट में तेरा क्या था, you got selected. और उनका सोशो था. And we developed this image that taking socio leads to. So therefore focus on. Why? Because if you have something as your graduation subject, जो आपका interest भी था, तो आपका 50% तो prepared है. 50% it is prepared ना. Why do you want to reinvent the wheel? So therefore, if you have interest in a subject and if you have it in graduation, go for it. Yes. PSC students who have taken physical. So if until unless you were a great 95%, 90% marks आपके आते थे BSc में. Or if your one particular subject was very very favorite, very felt कि अच्छा यार मेरा physics weak है, chemistry weak है, but maths में somehow I have this passion for it, passion for the subject. Then you can go for it. Then you can go for it, right? Also try to see if coaching is available for that. So IMS वगैरह की coaching है maths वगैरह के लिए, तो अगर आपको लगता है तो आप वो कर सकते हैं. So this is there. Another calculation is if you are confused, then you can go for a subject which will help you. Then you can go for a subject which will help you in your multiple exams. By chance, if someone is lucky enough that with this particular subject you can appear in forest services, you can appear in engineering services, you can appear in UPSC also. Fine, give it a chance. Even if some subject is tough, but you have interest in it, give it a chance. Because 3 exams are targeted. And I'm not saying that you will not be able to clear UPSC. No, not as backup. But what happens is, when you have some job on the side, or when you have some success on the side, your examination temperament improves. Prelims, mains, interview. Because then you are closer to, I don't need it from you. कर्म कर फल की इच्छा मत कर. You are closer to Bhagavad Gita thing because you are not desperately in need of it. So therefore your examination temperament improves. तो ऐसा भी calculation हम कर सकते हैं. So first is interest, summarizing. First is interest, passion towards the subject. Any subject, teacher available, not available, you will be able to clear the UPSC if you have that passion for it. Second is that if I am confused between the two, I'll go with the subject which is not super mainstream right now. Third point, if I'm confused, I'll also try to see, do I have a good coaching institute, good teacher available? Because at times, even if I do not have interest in the subject, if I'm able to find a good teacher, maybe he can generate interest for me. For example, psychology, I found a very good teacher, जैसे मुकुल पाठक सर, right? So मतलब बड़ा मजा आता था उनकी क्लास में. ठीक है, वो पढ़ाते खैर 70% थे, 30% बाकी हंसाते रहते थे हम लोगों को. ठीक है, तो बड़ा अच्छा लगता था. ऐसा लगता यार टेंशन खत्म होगी बस क्लास में आ जाओ. This kind of thing was there. Tension used to decrease when you used to. So therefore, fine. So therefore, these 3: interest, then good teacher, and then third, if still confusion, go for the one which is not mainstream, which not everyone is taking. That is better. So that is what is there. Right? So, okay, thank you. Right? Any other question? God bless you. Take care. And you will be uploading एक PPT होगा, एक बार पढ़ लेना. ये 2 sample newspaper, 3 sample newspapers, 1 PPT. So I think that covers. Right? So focus on Visualize magazines. Focus on reading editorial. Right? Focus on when you're traveling in metro, focus on news analysis. When you're traveling metro, focus on Rajya Sabha TV. But consider it as a bonus. It is not compulsory. Those things are not compulsory, they are bonus.